What's going on, everybody? This video compilation features episodes 114 through 118 as part of my Dolo Gim series. We start off from when Brutus was first released and resume 416 Heroes skilling grinds. What am I doing running around Lumbridge in full blood Torva and my scythe, you ask? Well, RuneScape just released a new boss, the cow boss Brutus. In order to do the boss though, we must first do a quest by starting the quest with Cassius over here, just north of the Lumbridge Castle and south of the windmill. Right now I'm just running around doing the quest, speaking to various NPCs around the Lumbridge area. Now I'm decked out in full Torva as I mentioned, and obviously this is more than needed. The cow boss Brutus is an early game quest. In fact, it's actually a free to play quest with an awakened version that is available for members only. Now, I thought the Awakened version was a meme. I didn't think it was real, but turns out it is. And in order to unlock the Awakened version, you need to find some item in the middle of the Desert Treasure 2 quest, or after the completion of Desert Treasure 2. So, sounds pretty serious. It's a pretty short quest, but we made it to the point where we have to fight the bull, which is Brutus. Release the bull, and I'm actually not completely sure of the mechanics. I do know you want to protect melee, and it melees you for the most part, but it does have special mechanics. Now, I almost just one-shot it, so I'm actually going to stall it out here just to look for the mechanics. So it looks like there's a smash there, and looks like you can safe spot this, at least temporarily is what I've heard. I think if we stand here long enough, eventually the bull, there we go. Eventually it will dash through, and it does 19 damage, so okay. Let's just go ahead and finish off Brutus. After speaking to a few more NPCs, we finish off the quest here at Cassius. Once again, that is one quest point, access to Brutus's field, and Gilly's cowbell supply. That is the Ides of Milk completed. I imagine my Dragon Claws here should be able to just take care of it. Oh no, not a one-shot. 8 health left. Okay. There we go, a PB of 9 seconds. I did not know it tracked that. And actually, you know what? That is a combat task. We did not even get to that yet. So here we go. It drops a raw T-bone steak, and we're 83 health right now. So perfect timing. Let's just go ahead and cook it. Oh, I know how to play this game. I just used a tinderbox. Oh, it respawned. Okay. Well, it looks like it drops logs too, and you can just quickly, in between KCs, cook your food. T-bone steak. Get a little health back. Looks like those special attacks do a good amount of damage, so you want to make sure to avoid those. But if you have protect melee, or even if you don't, I don't believe the regular attacks do too much damage. Interesting that it gave us noted raw T-bone steaks. Also, these bull bones, 40 prayer EXP for burying them in the ground. Looks like you can't pick them up either, so that's the only option. Probably a really good early game prayer EXP training method. A 6-second PB, some potato seeds, and because I was too busy talking and not avoiding the mechanics, I definitely need these T-bone steaks. Seems like in the blog post it said they heal for 10, but currently in the game right now, on release day, they're healing for 9, so I'm not sure which is the intended number here. But right now, in-game, it is 9. Got some mind runes there. A 5-second PB. Surely at some point I can just one-shot it with my claws here. Let's try on this next one. Also, I'm not potted, so let's go ahead and do that. Now, I slapped on Torva instead of Oathplate because I figured that this boss will have, like, no... Well, 2-second... That is Brutus Speed Trialist? Okay, I imagine there's no GM time, so that surely that's... that's all we needed. Looks like it drops regular logs and oak logs, so you could passively gain some fire-making EXP here, as well as it obviously being a food source that will sustain you throughout the fight. Unfortunately, I missed the recording on this, but I just completed the hard combat task Smarter Than a Cow, and I believe that's to not take any melee attack damage, which would obviously be very easily done if I was using range or magic, but I didn't bring it. But how I just got it done there was I just one-shot it. Oh, and that's another combat task there, just absolutely coming in. Brutus Champion, I imagine that is 10 KC. I'm not sure how many tasks there are, and it just occurred to me, I lost my Grandmaster once again. I'm getting it back, but I wasn't even thinking about it along this grind. Beef versus beef. Kill Brutus whilst neither equipping nor consuming anything. Okay, we can very easily do that. Let's go ahead and do that on this next KC. Now, I am potted right now, but this might be okay. I'm just gonna kick it. Dodge the slam mechanic. Looks like it's in a corner L shape. And that should do the trick. We have re-obtained Grandmaster. I guess I do have to go speak to the NPC again, huh? Before we dip out and reclaim our Grandmaster status officially, let's go over what it drops, because I've been trying to go over that and I just haven't had the opportunity to do so. Anyways, the most relevant 3 items are going to be the Muleta, which is an offhand melee. Think of like a defender, that's what it is. In fact, they compare it, the stats are similar to a steel defender. And then you have the bottomless milk bucket, similar to the bottomless compost bucket, but for milk. I'm not sure where I would personally use this, but neat little item, I suppose. Maybe making cakes and potato with cheese and things of that nature are going to be more viable, who knows. And then there are the best in slot cow slippers. Now, do they actually have any bonuses? It appears not. It is purely a cosmetic. However, they do come in 4 different colors, and I think there's actually an awakened version too, like a kitted version too. So, you know, I think I touched on this already, but when they were discussing the cow boss, a lot of content creators and the JMods themselves were talking about an awakened mode, and I could never tell if they were just trolling or not. Like, was it like a elaborate bit? But turns out it's actually in the game. All right, temporary break. Let's go reclaim GM officially. Warriors Guild teleport, Warriors Guild teleport, where is it? GM, Max Gamer, by the way, can't find the teleport, there we go. It's also on my Max cape, I know that, but I was already in the POH. Feels like not too long ago, I got GM, and then not too long ago, I had to reclaim GM, and here I am again. I think I've completed a combat tier. And he sounds surprised, but I mean, I've done this before. In fact, I'm just going to drop that hilt. Don't need it. Let's go back to the cow boss. Okay, back to the cow pen here. And I believe if we speak to Gilly Groats, which is one of the NPCs you speak to along the way for the quest, she gives you, there it is, a cowbell amulet. Now, what does this cowbell amulet offer you? Well, for one thing, it can be rung in between KCs to make Brutus respawn faster. So for farming the boss, that's going to be fantastic. And it also saves you a tick when you're milking cows. So yeah, that's pretty niche, but that's pretty cool nonetheless. Now, it does have charges, so I'm kind of curious, like, what are the charges specifically used for? You need air runes to charge those. As I mentioned, the cowbell amulet can be rung to respawn Brutus faster. It saves you a tick when milking cows, going down from 7 ticks to 6 ticks. And as I just touched on just now, you need air runes to charge this, and that's because it is a teleport straight to this Lumbridge cow field. We mostly want this for the feature of ringing it to respawn Brutus faster, so we're going to go ahead and swap left click to ring, and then, well, let's get started farming the boss again. Surely I can get my hands on one of the slippers. That's honestly the thing I want the most, you know, forget the Muleta at this stage of the account. So here we go. After a KC, you ring the cowbell. There's a chat box that pops up. You can just hold spacebar to get rid of that, and then there is still a bit of downtime, but it is much quicker than the regular downtime. Along with the 3 uniques, this boss also does have a pet named Beef, so pet hunters better get started on that. Looks like air runes are also on its drop table, so you can charge up your amulet pretty much free of charge by simply farming the boss. Not that air runes are particularly hard to obtain. Before I dive into the awakened variant of this boss, first and foremost, let's try and get the uniques first. I still don't have any of the uniques. Now, according to the wiki, it looks like they are already posted. It's actually a 1 in 15 chance to see any of the 3 uniques. And we're already at KC 35, so maybe a little bit unlucky in that regard. But more specifically, the Muleta is a 1 in 30, the bottomless milk bucket is a 1 in 37.5, and perhaps the most coveted item of them all, the cow slippers, are a 1 in 150. You cannot script this. I literally just started complaining in the clan chat, where my cow slippers at, bro? You can see it timestamped 1547. The next KC? Cow slippers. Wow. Let's put those bad boys on, and oh, back to back bottomless milk bucket. Okay. Okay, now we're missing the muletas. But okay, before we got interrupted by the bottomless milk bucket, I was going to say, I believe there's 4 different color variants. 5 if you include the awakened version of these cow slippers. So I don't know if we need to just keep farming, or if there's like a recolor or something. I'm not sure. I've been seeing other people wear oath plate instead of Torva, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that as well, you know, just go with the crowd, you know. Surely people know something that I don't, right? So let's just go ahead and that. And I can't even put away my bottomless milk bucket. My bank is absolutely full. You know what? That is something I'll worry about later. Back to the cow pen. Oh, I just rang the bell. Looks like you can ring the bell anywhere. Imagine if you just rang the bell anywhere and Brutus just shows up. Like, you're just standing in Crafting Guild Bank, and then all of a sudden, just cows just start coming in. Oh, and it pays off to read and actually look at things. I was talking about the different color variants earlier, and it turns out there's a right-click swap option. Let's go ahead and put these on, and you can see there's a right-click swap option for the various different colors. Now, obviously, I mentioned there's the awakened version, so we're going to have to go and do that eventually. But right now, we still need the muletas, which is actually the most common item from here, and surprisingly, we don't have it. Okay, and there are the muletas. I was actually busy AFKing the boss. I just turned on auto retaliate as I was editing this video. Let's open the collection log here. That was 59 KC. We did 60 afterwards just off of auto retaliate, and Brutus, that is all 3 items minus the pet, which, by the way, the pet beef is only, quote unquote, only a 1 in 1,000. So for a pet, that is actually not as rare as some other ones, and it actually seems like a realistic grind to obtain. So maybe we could consider doing that. Alright, the item grinds are out of the way. My bank is full. I gotta, you know, we don't need these T-bone steaks. What are we? We have plenty of food in the bank. We are gonna hold on to all these other uniques though. And let's get sorted on the awakened, or I should say the cow-wakened variant of Brutus. So earlier I said that you need a certain item to do the awakened version. Well, it's the abyssal potato, and here we are in the scar area, which is why you need completion of Desert Treasure 2, and you pick up the growth. Now I actually had to hop worlds here because, as it turns out, it's not unique to each individual player, so I was accidentally stealing off of somebody that was already here, so I went ahead and just hopped worlds, so, you know, I didn't want to be rude. But yeah, we pick up these abyssal potatoes, and, you know, in a way, it's still like an entrance fee thing, like an orb or contracts, but obviously you can get an insane amount of these with little to no effort. So it's not exactly the same, but it is a ticket to do Awaken Brutus nonetheless. Let's go ahead and fill up our inventory here, and then we'll head back. Now, I did do a few attempts at Awaken Brutus already, and safe to say it did not go well. It's definitely a harder version of the boss, for sure. I wouldn't say that it's like the most difficult thing, but it's definitely a challenge. Oh, I'm alive. Let's combo eat. I should have brought my Dragon Claws. Okay, I understand what to do. I just need to react quicker. I don't know if it's like a one-tick reaction, but you definitely have to react quicker, and I was just very slow there. This was the first time I actually marked the Brutus NPC, though, so I could actually see its outline. It is a 3x3 mob, so that's good to know. I don't think it will take me too many attempts to do this, but at the same time, I don't want to jinx it, so let's just see what happens. Kind of funny seeing a bunch of max gamers over here, like, dying to a boss in the Lumberge area. The Lumberge cow pen. It's a little weird. Like, I know how to dodge them, but it's like I'm actively thinking. I'm having to think how to dodge them. It's not great. See, right there, I was slow on the third dodge. I guess maybe I was like I put myself behind already. I don't know. No, oh, okay, that looked different to me for some reason. Oh, that's the charge attack. Okay. No, it's 130 health. And there goes another plank, but I'm just now learning that it's actually immune to thralls, so there's no point in bringing my rune pouch and my thrall book. Kinda like Soul Haired it at the Colosseum. For the longest time, I didn't know it was immune to thralls, and it feels kind of arbitrary when they decide when or when not a boss is immune to thralls or not. It's kind of weird. Okay, to be honest, I'm being skill issued by the boss quite a bit right now, not going to lie. I am making it to P2 relatively consistently though, so that's good. It's just a matter of like reacting in time. Right now, the process between like reacting, like seeing it, and then processing and then clicking is really slow for me. Once it becomes more muscle memory, I see something, I click instantly, then I'm sure I'll get it down. But right now, it's just not clicking. With that being said though, I'm going to call it here, and I'll definitely check back in with you guys when I do manage to accomplish Cow Wakened Boss Brutus and get those mythical cow slippers. Yeah, there's so many people just standing around out here. Let me claim my stuff before I forget, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Old School RuneScape is a game of skilling and PVM, and in terms of PVM, there's actually a pretty expansive progression in terms of the armor and weapons you can upgrade. But what happens when you achieve all of those relevant pieces of gear upgrades? Well, in comes the cosmetic flexes, with the likes of Blood Torva after acquiring the regular Torva, or Radiant Oathplate after achieving the Oathplate set itself, to the kits from raids like the Holy Scythe of Vitter and the Sanguine Scythe of Vitter, and even in TOA, the Osmumtum's Fang with the Ornament kit. Beyond that, there's also the combat achievements in which you become Grandmaster and acquire the iconic Zuckhelm. Well, what is RuneScape's most recent flex? That's right. It's the Brutus Slippers. RuneScape has a new free-to-play cow boss, however, with a members-only Awakened Boss variant. There it is. You know, I knew it. I was doing this all day, and then I finally took my dinner break, came back, and like less than 5 attempts later, we got it done. Let's put those bad boys in, zoom in, get a good look at Brutus Slippers. I had actually already teleported out, but I came back because there's a scoreboard over here. We're going to look at that in just a second. And to be honest, I'm expecting a lot of deaths here. I wasn't really keeping track, but I know my death coffer took a beating. And for those of you that have followed me on my road to Radiant and my Grandmaster journey, you'll know that I have a bad tendency to just absolutely doomsend. And even though it's still day one of the Brutus release, this is exactly what happened. I mean, you know, I spent countless hours doing this, finally took a break, ate my dinner, came back, and I got it within like a couple of attempts, as I said. So, but yeah, let's take a look at this board. I mean, obviously I've never died in the regular one, 68 KC regular, 0 deaths, and demonic 46 deaths. Yep, there it is, 1 KC, 46 deaths. But we got the job done. Looks like the current global best time is 131. I expect that to be, honestly, I could see it being sub 1 minute. Heading back to the bank, we have a very important task to do. Now that we have the slippers, what is the best in-slot fashionscape for this bad boy? It honestly goes a lot better with the Blorva. Honestly, nothing really goes with the Radiant all too well, unfortunately. That's a newer thing, but I do expect future updates to match the Radiant a bit more. For example, the Avernic treads that are the de facto best in slot boots do go well with the Radiant Oathplate. They're not too bad with the Blorva either, but the Brutus slippers, I mean, it's the black and red. It goes with the Blorva, it goes with the Zuckhelm, it goes with our Scythe of Vitter. And you know what? I went ahead and equipped the Muletas, the Steel Defender more or less. And it goes pretty well with this fit right here too. A Blade of Saildor, our bomber jacket and beekeeper's legs that we usually wear just for our typical fashionscape. Yeah, not too shabby. Well, now that I have Awakened Brutus out the way, I think I'm going to farm the boss a bit more. The boss pet is only a 1 in 1,000, which is much lower than other pets. And not to mention, you can legitimately fully AFK this boss. You can just turn on auto retaliate and farm the boss. It's not going to do too much damage to you, and when you're high level with good gear, you're more than likely just going to finish the boss off before it even does one of those special attacks. Well, now that I've done Awaken Boss, how about you? Have you done it yet? Do let me know in the comment section down below. If you're looking for resources to help you complete the Awakened Cow Boss, Brutus, I highly recommend diverting your attention over to Molgo Kirby's channel. He has a couple of videos out already on day one. He has a very simple walkthrough explaining all the mechanics and the special attacks, as well as a more in-depth video with a lot of crazy tiles, which I didn't end up using for myself, but nonetheless it could be helpful to you. I may make my own guide in the future once I have a better understanding of this boss, and maybe some tips and tricks, but obviously it's day one right now, and I had just got it done, so honestly, you know, this 1 KC for all we know could be a fluke. Although I will say, like I said, after taking my dinner break, it just started clicking for me, and it didn't take too long for me to get it afterwards. So sometimes it's about just learning, then stepping back, taking a break, and then coming back after you've processed all that information. With that being said, good luck out there in Lumbridge. Previously in our maxing grind, we've been heavily focused on agility. We did take a detour to the Guardians of the Rift though to get 65 rune crafting as per a requirement for RD Elite Diary. Now why do we need RD Elite Diary, you may ask? RD Elite gives bonus marks of grace as well as EXP, which is the more important thing for us at the RD Rooftop course. And that's going to be our game plan from 90 to 99 agility. Along the way though, in order to meet the requirements to RD Elite Diary, while we do have the rune crafting requirement out the way, we have a pretty steep smithing level to get, 91 smithing. Currently, we are just 73 smithing. The first thing we're going to do is POH Telly and get back on the standard spellbook just so we don't have to burn up house tabs to gain access to teleport around. And then we're going to go ahead and do a birdhouse run because as I mentioned before, throughout the Guardians of the Rift grind, I neglected to do birdhouse runs just because it was kind of inconvenient to do so. But now that we're done with that, then get back to the birdhouse runs. Currently we are 88 Hunter with 332k EXP. Until 89, and that's when we can move up to redwood birdhouses. We already did the crafting grind at 90, which is also another requirement for the redwood birdhouses, so it's just hunter levels from here. With the rune crafting grind done for now, it's time to move on to smithing. But as per usual, gotta do a birdhouse run real quick. Now actually, it's been a couple days later since I last finished the rune crafting grind, and that's because I've come down with a massive migraine. Over the years, unfortunately, this just happens to me from time to time, but as such, I've just kind of taken my time, just chilled out a little bit, haven't been on the game too much. With that being said though, let's move on over to the blast furnace. Let's go ahead and minigame teleport there now. I went ahead and geared myself up in full graceful, something we only relatively recently accomplished, so very good timing on that. Well, it's full graceful outside of the glove slot here, as we need ice gloves and goldsmith gauntlets to properly do the blast furnace. Well, the gauntlets obviously are for better EXP per ore, and without it, the EXP per hour is going to be really abysmal here. So important to have that on. And ice gloves, that's just so you can pull from the bar dispenser right away. Now, I don't think I'm going to be doing all of my smithing grind here at Blast Furnace. Definitely the majority. However, I'm going to find times where I'm just kind of lazy and don't want to do it. And any EXP is better than no EXP. And as such, I'll probably be AFKing gold bars at a regular furnace from time to time. Again, this is not going to be like too often. Like 99.9% of the EXP is going to come from here. Because when you're not using Blast Furnace, it's honestly pretty slow if you're smithing bars. Right now, sitting in our bank, we just have 3.3k gold ore, and if we want to be semi-efficient, we're also going to need stamina pots, in which I have just 13 4-dosers sitting in the bank right now. Not to worry though, while I will get started right now, I can transfer over some extended staminas, and I have a whole ton more gold ore available on the other account's bank right now. And a quick POV switch over to our maxed account wait for it here. If you're wondering where stamina pots come from, or extended staminas more specifically, you simply combine stamina potions with marlin scales, in which you get from trawling marlins out in the ocean. Alright, let's get started with the gold ore here. First batch in. Once the EXP drops, switch over to the ice gloves so I can pick them up and then bank them. And repeat, and once our stamina starts dropping, I'm going to sip an extended stamina, and we will be doing that occasionally to upkeep our stamina. Now, I think there is a more efficient method here. You see how I had to wait there for the gold bars? I think there's a technique that you can do to remove that delay. Now, it's been a long time since I was here at Blast Furnace, and to be honest, I don't know if I ever figured that out. So I might ask around, might look this up and figure out how I can do this just slightly more efficiently. Although I'm not too concerned with it, but it would be nice to know and see if I can go about doing that. And just as we did in Guardians of the Rift, I also went ahead and turned Entity Hider on here just so I could see more clearly what I was doing and not the bajillion people here, so... Alright, I believe the tech here, if I'm not mistaken, is simply to preload the furnace with an inventory full of bars. So that's actually my second inventory right there. And, alright, we'll just see how this goes, I suppose. Right now we have 27 bars in there. I chucked the gold ore in. Gotta wait for the EXP drop. Ice gloves. I already messed up once and didn't get the bonus EXP. I am accounting for this. I have more than enough gold ore to get through, even accounting for some mistakes. So, I mean, obviously we want to avoid making those mistakes, but it's not the end of the world. Plus, we can always just get more gold ore really quickly, whether it's buying it from the shop here or just doing more content like Chambers of Zarek. Okay, I think I figured out the tech. I'm not executing it 100% here, but for example right there, I think I did it, although my pathing was bad. If I end up on the correct side here, I should be able to just smoothly run from the conveyor belt past the bar dispenser while picking up the ores, or the bars I should say. Oh, I just messed up again. But it should be one fluid thing without stopping, and I should be able to get better EXP an hour. Although, if I continue to mess up like this, I should just be better off just doing it the normal way and not concerning myself with this method. But it would be nice if I could get this method down. Again, I did the timing there correctly, I think, but I stopped my character. The pathing was bad there, so if I just clean that up, I could speed this up just a tiny bit. Either way, smithing at the blast furnace is going to be very, very quick, so no big deal if I can't get this down. And actually, it's time for a birdhouse run, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, this run right here is the best as to what I can do, at least in terms of the effort I want to put in. I do have to wait on the north side for a little bit there, but it's still quicker than not having any gold bars preloaded at all. So it's kind of like an in-between. This is more efficient than usual, but it's still not the most efficient method, in which I believe you can get like upwards of 400k EXP an hour. Yeah, we're not going to be obtaining that. No worries there, but this is what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future. Basically, as soon as I click, or as soon as I deposit the gold ore, I can go ahead and just click on the dispenser, and my character will make it in time to where the interface opens up, so then it will delay or stall the EXP drop, and that way I have all the time in the world to click on my goldsmith gauntlets. And as long as I do this, as long as I instantly click every single time, I'm never going to miss the EXP drop with the goldsmith gauntlets on. So obviously this is not the most efficient method, like I said, but a little in between. And just like that, with this coming inventory right here, we're gonna be 75 smithing. A whole bunch of unlocks, but I'm not gonna waste any time reading that right now. I did see an Addy scimitar. Currently, we are quite literally burning GP in our coffer. You know, every second that we're here, it's gonna cost us a little bit of GP. I did put out 1 mil GP to start with, which is going to last us another 13 hours, so that's going to be a while. Don't know how long this is going to take. I didn't do the math, but we do have to go from 73 smithing, which is what we started at, all the way to 91. Now, we could stop earlier and boost, but boosting is something I never really like to do, so I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to 91. Our objective is to max anyways, right? We actually haven't even been here too long, and we already gained 2 levels. And the efficiency is only going to get better and better as I fall into a rhythm here. It was definitely a bit of a rough go to start with, but the longer I do this, it's the same pattern over and over again, very repeatable, and the EXP rates are going to increase. Well, there's obviously a limit, but right now the EXP per hour on the sidebar is still going up. The changes they've made over the years to stamina and the introduction of extended staminas has made this so incredibly good. We quite literally never run out of stamina. In one more inventory here, I'm going to resip another extended stamina dose, but I just want to say, back in the day, even if you use staminas, you would inevitably run out of stamina anyways, despite being potted up. So you would either have to use energy potions or extra stamina pots, but it seems like with extended staminas and the faster stamina regen now, it seems like I never run out of stamina at all. And that is 70 smithing, more Addy tier unlocks, but we keep on going. 77 smithing, adamant full helms. And another level coming in, 78. 79 smithing, we're making good progress here. Level 80 smithing, another skill 80 plus. Current total level is 1967, closer and closer to 2000 as well. Another day, another level. There we go, 81 smithing, 10 more levels to go until we have the requirement for RD Elite. Just had myself a nice meal, but back to the blast furnace we are. And with this inventory, 82 smithing. We can now craft or smith the Blade of Saildor and Bofa. Pretty relevant stuff, but you can also just simply pay for them if you don't meet the requirements. It's that time for a birdhouse run again. Basically, anytime I'm online, I'm always looking to do the birdhouse runs when they come up. As for our hunter level right now, we're still sitting at 88 with 280k EXP until 89, and that's going to be redwood birdhouses. As far as smithing goes, obviously we've been working on that, and we've been holding steady at about 330k EXP an hour or so. Now keep in mind, this is because I'm not doing the most optimal method at the not blacksmithing, the blast furnace. So EXP isn't too great, and also obviously we are stepping away to do birdhouse runs every 50 minutes. So all things considered, I'm pretty happy about the EXP rates we're getting so far, and we're actually very close to the next level. A couple inventories later, back at the blast furnace, and this is 83 smithing. Members can now make oath plate. Okay, that is absolutely huge actually. We do still need a second set of oath plate armor. Obviously, we have the one on wait for it, but we're going to need a whole nother set for this account in the future. So that's good to know. And actually, to this day, I don't have the full set of oath plate in my collection log. I had to make the helmet. I did get the top and leg drops as actual items, but I ended up making the third piece of armor. It's crazy to think that despite how fast this skill is at the blast furnace, gaining well over 300k EXP an hour, hitting 84 smithing, we can now make adamant two-handed swords. That this is still going to take at least another 30 hours or so to get to 99. Now, that's right, 99. Our goal right now is 91, but as I've been on this grind, I'm contemplating whether or not to just straight shoot it to 99 since we're here already. And that's going to be our ultimate goal anyways. Obviously, I have a lot of time to think about this, but that idea has crept into my mind. So we'll see what happens. With this batch of gold ore, we are going to hit 85 smithing. What's that going to unlock? Runite ore and sigils to bless spirit shields. Actually, I had no idea that required a smithing level. Anyways, we're now in the territory where it takes about an hour, give or take a couple of minutes, to get a level. So despite us at a blistering pace right now, gaining levels every so often at a rate of 330k EXP an hour, it's definitely slowing down in terms of the levels. In fact, according to my EXP tracker right now, we are right on pace to get to 86 smithing in about 1 hour's time. I know when I first started the smithing grind, I said that I would mostly be doing blast furnace with a touch of regular smelting for the gold bars, and to be honest, I did give that a go, and I think that was just pure copium. The smithing at the regular furnace is just way too slow. It takes literal minutes just to get through one inventory. And here at the blast furnace, it's like a couple of seconds and boom, you have 27 gold bars. So with that being said, with whatever downtime I have, I might be better served to do something else or just get off the game entirely, to be honest. Obviously, we're still at the blast furnace on 416 Hero, but checking in with wait for it for a little bit here. We're doing some rune crafting, upkeeping our blood runes as we always need those. And obviously, at the blast furnace, it does require a decent amount of attention, so I'm not exactly PVMing or doing anything intensive on this account. Blood rune crafting at Zaya is the right level of background activity that I can do while constantly running the gold ore to the furnace. We're closer to 86 than we are 85 now, and honestly, hitting 85 earlier, I made the realization we're just 25% of the way there to 99. Because if you didn't know, fun fact here, I suppose, the way the scaling works is every 7 levels is actually double the EXP. So we all know 92 is infamously halfway to 99, but likewise 85 is halfway to 92. And here comes another, okay, bit of a delay there, 86 smithing, another level, adamant plate legs, rune keel parts. That's going to be useful for sailing later. Actually, that's a good reason why we're doing smithing now. Beyond just the RD diary and 99 in general, it's going to be pretty crucial to upgrade our ships for the sailing skill. The previous few levels we've gained here at Blast Furnace have all been the same day today so far. So massive day in terms of EXP gains, but honestly, I'm not sure I could keep this up. It's kind of a weird thing because Blast Furnace, once you get it going, it's just a repetitive thing, right? You deposit the gold ore, you come to the collection point, you collect as you switch into your gold gauntlets, you switch back and you deposit and withdraw, rinse and repeat. Despite its repetitiveness, it does kind of take a lot out of you. I don't know what it is. I guess it's because you have to be in constant motion. So you do have to focus, otherwise your EXP rates drop off pretty quickly. Keep in mind, I'm not even doing the most efficient method right now. I'm kind of doing like a little halfway thing where yes, I did preload the furnace so that there's little to no wait time like this. But I'm not maneuvering my character in a way to where I'm just constantly running. I think that's what should be happening if you're doing the max efficiency. But yeah, with that being said, while we have a big EXP day today so far, I don't know if I can keep this up. So this road to 91 and then definitely the road to 99 could take a while. I think the game plan right now is once we reach 91, we definitely will step out of here to do the diary at the very least. And then we'll decide if we want to come back and go from 91 to 99. It's still the same day right now, and we are gaming. Another level coming right up. We're going to be hitting 87 smithing. Rune maces and Shazian boots 5. Making them, is that even relevant anymore? Honestly, I have no idea. I think earlier I briefly mentioned how this is actually pretty taxing, it's pretty draining, but here we're approaching a 2 mil smithing EXP day. I probably won't go much further than that for the day though, and I doubt tomorrow or the next day I'm actually going to get another 2 mil EXP day, but who knows, we'll see. Obviously when we get closer and closer to a 99, the motivation does increase a little bit too, so we'll just see what happens. Oh, too busy yapping away in the clan chat, but 88 smithing, 1975 total. We're making good progress. Well, after gaining 2.3 mil EXP of smithing EXP at the blast furnace for today, I'm definitely going to call it there. Our main objective is still 91 smithing. We're at 88 now, so 3 more levels to go. Then we're going to go do our RD Elite Diary. And I think while we're not at 91 yet, I have decided I'm just going to straight shoot it to 99. But with that being said though, all this smithing EXP for today is more than enough, but I'm still on for the night for a little bit longer. So I made my way here to Barbarian Fishing because currently we are 90 fishing. This is probably going to be a grind to 99 I'm going to do relatively shortly, perhaps even after the smithing and the RD Elite. I know I mentioned that I want to get 99 agility out the way as soon as possible, but Barbarian Fishing does give me a little bit of agility, and I think at the very least it might save me an entire day and hundreds of laps at the RD rooftop courses, so I might as well do that. Another day and we are back at the blast furnace. We last left off at 88 smithing and hopefully we pick up a few more levels today. Things are going to be slowing down obviously in terms of how many levels we can get in one session, but EXP still is going to be flying at well over 300k EXP an hour. And while we're working on running the gold ore to the furnace, we've been using extended stamina potions, in which on the maxed account right now, we're going to make a couple more of those. I have a seemingly endless supply of stamina potions, but I didn't make very many extended variants, which are actually incredibly useful at the blast furnace right now. So let's go ahead and make some more of those. We just got done with a batch of extended staminas, now on to the redwood trees. Now if you're wondering why I'm chopping redwoods, well I actually have plenty of those sitting in the bank, but as we do birdhouses we're going to go through a whole lot of them. And it's good to get more woodcutting EXP anyways. But as for why I specifically need more logs, well the reasoning is we're going to be prepping for fletching down the line. On 416 Hero, we're currently 74 fletching, and I think I'm mostly going to be making arrows. Obviously, that's still subject to change at this point, but I'm keeping my options open and just being prepared. So we're going to be cutting these redwood logs and then converting them into arrow shafts, which is why I have the knife in my inventory. Now, we don't necessarily have to do redwoods, but because we have the levels obviously being maxed, redwoods are the best available option. I believe they give out like 90 arrow shafts per log or something insane like that. The higher the tier, the more arrow shafts per log. Slight correction, it's actually more than 90. It's 105 arrow shafts per log. Chopping the redwoods should be very easy to do in the background while we're running the blast furnace. Feels like at the blast furnace, it always takes a couple of runs before you get into the groove, but we're pacing now, 89 smithing. We can now do rune short swords. You know, kind of weird thing there. I never heard anybody ever recall or refer to it as the rune short sword, just the rune sword, but I guess that's what it is. I think I saw rune nails in the pop-up there as well, which is going to be pretty relevant for sailing, building our boats. Switching the POV back over to wait for it, chopping away at the redwoods. Now the smart thing would be to do, I'm sure someone was thinking of this, is to simply just run Kingdom and get maple logs or something, and then that way I'll have a ton of logs to convert into arrow shafts. Well, that costs GP, and it's no like real tangible gains on the account. At least this way it gives my account something to do and gain woodcutting and fletching EXP. Now I'm not too big of a skiller, but I am just 35 million EXP shy from getting 1 build total EXP. That would be pretty neat to get. We've made it to 90 smithing, another level 90 in the books. We can now make a rune scimitar, among other things like a dragon fire shield, which is something I still don't have on any account, unfortunately. Any Ironman account, that is. Obviously on a main you can just buy one. But in terms of our goal here, we need one more level, get 91 to do the RD Elite Diary. To get from 90 to 91, we're going to need another 550k EXP or so. That's going to be just under... Well, actually, right now we're pacing 345k per hour, so it's going to be between 1 to 2 hours, not quite 2 hours. And after we do the RD Elite Diary, we can come straight back and shoot for 99. And yes, I do have all the gold ore banked, and I didn't have to buy any of it or anything like that, because I think I have a lot of gold ore, mostly from the Chambers of Xerix. I'm sure from other sources as well, but definitely the majority of it is from the Chambers of Xerix. And yes, we could have boosted to get to 91 smithing, but why would we do that if we're going to need to get the levels to max anyways, right? Doing the RD Elite Diary now or in about 2 hours time makes absolutely no difference. We've kept at it here at the blast furnace, and I actually had to put another 2 mil GP into the coffer to keep it up and running. I think that should be more than enough to carry us all the way to 99. But with this last inventory of gold ore, this should get us to 91, and then let's get out of here and do the Elite RD Diary. Well, before we can do RD Elite, we gotta do medium and hard. Obviously, we did easy a long time ago, and to be honest, I probably should have did medium a long time ago too, but we're just gonna get medium, hard, and then elite all done in one go. Our first step here is to get to Intrana. It's always a bit annoying to get to Intrana because you can't bring weapons and armor and certain things. Easiest way is to just be absolutely naked, I guess. I do need these 11 U-logs though, because I am taking the hot air balloon. Alright, for this task I actually had to make this trip twice, because the first time I had to set up the route. The second time, with just one U-log in my inventory, we should automatically go over to Castle Wars. You know, speaking of this task, has anyone unironically used the hot air balloons as a means of travel? Because I certainly have never done that. Yanil South Wall grapple shortcut with our Dragon Hunter crossbow. To be honest, I didn't even remember that we had one sitting on this account. A lot of dupes probably sitting in this account's bank. But there we have it. Another task completed. Let's climb back over, actually. Another task in the Yanil area. We gotta claim some sand from Bert. Now, upon completion of RD Elite, Bert's actually going to automatically deposit sand into our bank. If you're still working on crafting as a typical Ironman, that's actually pretty useful. The sand will just build up. A little bit of passive sand rather than having to get all of your sand by manually mining it. For us though, our crafting EXP is already covered from 90 to 99, and luckily we won't need any of the sand, but it's nice to collect nonetheless. We have a lot of quests to do on this account, but at the same time we've done a lot of them already, thankfully. So with a task like this, we have to fish from any of these fishing platforms here, and you require the completion of Sea Slug to do this. Luckily we already did that. Pickpocket a master farmer. I don't think I've actually done that at all on this account, but there we go. And last step, Artie Zoo in the cage with the unicorns, and this will be Artie medium completed. We're going to get a nice EXP lamp out of this as well. As we make our way over to claim our rewards, each tier of Artie diaries completed gives you an extra boost in thieving success rate, and obviously the teleport to the Artie Monastery right off the get-go at the easy tier, and that's honestly why the Artie Easy Diary is so and that's honestly why the Artie Easy Diary is so important to do for early game Ironman, because it's an early unlimited teleport to replenish your prayer, to get to a fairy ring, and relatively close to a bank, as well as a spirit tree. Well, with Artie medium out the way now, we move on to the hard tier, and in terms of farming patches, bush patches like this, luckily we went ahead and preemptively did these before. So all we have to do is pick from the bush patch, in which actually I would probably want to switch this back to a white berry bush. That's more useful, but that is the task completed. With each tier of the Artie diaries, you'll also gain access to more teleports per day to the Artie farm patch, until you get to Elite, in which you have unlimited teleports. Next step, we're actually going to have to relocate our house to Yanil. Quite frankly, I don't even know where the POH is located on this account. We never use it. 68 smithing required for this next step, but we are at 91, so we're definitely good on that. We're going to make some... Oh, that's not what we want to make. We want to make a mithril plate body. Good thing I canceled that. And there we have it. Next step, to the Legends Guild, which I think the fastest way to get there is a fairy ring. Do I remember the fairy ring code? Probably not. CLS maybe? Nope, not even close. BLR. Has anyone unironically used this bank chest at the top of the Legends Guild? Honestly, I didn't even know this was here. I need some sort of necklace or something. I just need to recharge some jewelry. I don't think I have any. What a weird problem to have. Wait, Amulet of Glory? That might do the trick. Alright, if I had read, I would have known that you can only recharge a skills necklace or a combat bracelet there. And I actually don't have either of those, so here on the maxed account, I'm actually going to make one real quick. Alright, now this should do the trick. Use the skills necklace on the totem. There we have it. 72 thieving required to open this chest with a lockpick. We got ourselves a good couple items there, actually. Okay. Next up, smith a dragon square shield in West Artie. Now, I actually don't have either half of the shield. I do think I can buy one at the Mist Guild, if I remember correctly. And surely the maxed account has a spare shield left half or two. At the top of the Mist Guild, first try, it's Erdan. And shield right half, we'll be buying that. I didn't even check how much that cost. Hopefully not too much. And sure enough, let's access the group storage right now. The maxed account had 8 shield left halves to spare, so there we have it. And now let's make sure we use the correct anvil here. West Artie. In a random house in West Artie, here we are. Let's go ahead and make the shield. Heading into the Abyss now, and that's just to access the Death Altar. This is the exact reason why we did Guardians of the Rift, to get to 65 runecrafting with what feels like a long time ago at this point. For this very reason. Now, I already have the Death Altar marked, or the Death Rift specifically. And here we go. That's going to be Artie hard done. Let's go back to Artie once again and claim our rewards. I don't have a TP out of here. What am I doing? I will be claiming my hard tier rewards. Thank you very much. That's another EXP lamp. We'll use those after completing all the diaries. To start the Elite Diary off, this is another situation where we took the time earlier to pre-plant something. Luckily, this did grow a torstal, and I don't have a spade. Okay. Let's see how many torstals we can get out of this. We do have our magic secateurs in our inventory, so a little bonus. This seems like a pretty good haul, actually. This is torstal. Yeah, not bad at all. What is that? 15? That is 15 torstal. Our next task is to cast Ice Barrage on a player in Castle Wars. So I'm just going to bring my other account along. And unfortunately, while I did say I was going to save these lamps until I completed the diaries, looks like I'm going to have to use them now because I can't bank them, and evidently I can't bring them in the Castle Wars. I'm going to be using this on Slayer, so that's 15,000 EXP there. And then 7,500 from the medium diary in the Slayer. We're currently 88 Slayer. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Slayer, honestly, so that's why I've been putting EXP lamps in the Slayer. Oh, didn't quite catch this. I didn't realize this was the actual task, but I just had to pick lock this door, and that was this. Just a few more tasks remaining. I'm making my way over to Port Khazard for this next task at the moment, and that's to catch a manta ray in the fishing trawler minigame, and then cook it in Port Khazard. Alright, one full trawling game done with full contribution. Surely I get manta rays, right? Surely. Alright, moment of truth. Inspect the trawler net. 18 manta rays, okay. Oh, and I guess I might as well pick up the 6 raw sea turtles. Let's bank all of that. Let's get our cooking gauntlets out. Actually, I have no idea if those even help. It's really weird. The cooking gauntlets actually don't work on a lot of things. Not sure if the manta rays work or not, but... Oh wait, do I not even have cooking gauntlets on this account? Oh, you know what? I never did the mini quest that enables you to have all 3 gauntlet options. Now, if I did the family pest mini quest, I believe it's called, then I'd be able to have all 3 at the time. The third one being the chaos gauntlets, which are rarely used, to be honest. You know what? I never picked those up for the Karam ones I cooked because obviously that didn't work. Manta rays... Will I burn this? Nope, first try. There we go. That's the task completed. And we did all those Relica course laps for this moment right here. 1 lap of the RD rooftop course. Surely I don't fall off at any point, right? Oh, yep, that answers my question. Alright, I won't lie. I've fallen off like 3 times. Surely not this time though, right? And we are good. That's our very first lap out of over 8,000 that we're going to have to do to get to 99. Next up, pickpocket this hero. Of course, we fail with 99 thieving. Let's try again. There we go. And now we just have 1 task left to do. And this is the reason why we did the 91 smithing grind. We're going to have to go make a rune crossbow from scratch. You have to do everything within the RD region except this. Getting the sinew, I think, is an exception. I just went ahead and killed a cow in the Lumbridge area. Step 1, we have to spin a crossbow string in Witch Haven. Step number 2, at Yanil, we have to smith a crossbow... Or, I'm sorry, the runite limbs. Okay, let's just be very careful here, you know? Let's not mess up and waste rune bars. That is stage 2 complete. And our quest helper is actually not updating correctly here, but step 3 is to use my knife on a U log and make a U stock or a crossbow stock. There we go. Now we combine the stock and the limbs together, and we get a runite crossbow unstrung. Now, do we just do this? Yep, oh, that's it. And that is actually RD Elite completed, just like that. Obviously, getting the level requirements took much longer, but doing the actual task, not so much. We're on the way to claim our rewards. Now, keep in mind, we did all of this just so that we would get bonus EXP or better EXP rates for the RD rooftop course whenever we get to that. But along the way, we decided that we're actually going to get 99 smithing first and maybe even 99 fishing as well. So yeah, I mean, we're going to get all 99s eventually anyways. It's just a matter of when and how and in what order. But let's go ahead and rub this antique lamp once again into Slayer, a whopping 50,000 Slayer EXP. Very well worth it, in my opinion. Well, it certainly took a while for us to complete the RD Elite Diary, but I do recognize that it is well worth it, and it's going to be a massive time save, as I mentioned before. With that being said, that's all the time I have for now. We're going to continue the maxing grind next. The road to max is a long journey, so there are going to be many pit stops and skills to train along the way. Previously, we accomplished the RD Elite Diary, setting the table to do our agility grind. But before we do that, here is the road to 99 smithing. With the RD Diaries out the way, we return to Blast Furnace and we are here for the long haul. We got another 8 levels to go, 91 to 99, more than halfway until we reach the max level for this skill, and then we will move on. Now, as I touched on before, in our downtime when I need a break from smithing, I'm going to be doing barbarian fishing to 99. I was getting pretty close to this fishing level, so I decided, you know what, let's just go ahead and make the push for it. A little bit of a break away from the blast furnace, but there we go, 91 fishing. We hit 91 fishing last night, but today back to the blast furnace, which we are actually also level 91, but this time around we're straight shooting it to 99, only teleporting out to do our birdhouse runs, in which we're still at 88. It's pretty slow going when you're comparing it to skills that we're actively training, but if you think about it, we're not spending a whole lot of time actually training Hunter. It's just every 50 minutes we spend about a minute running over to Fossil Island, and that's about it. And each time it's like, what? I think like 6k EXP or so, maybe just under that. And when we reach 89, that EXP is only going to increase. As we get settled into the blast furnace again, checking in on wait for it, we're still chopping redwoods like we have previously, and we're up to 167k arrow shafts. We're doing this because we're most likely going to be making arrows of some sort for our fletching grind on 416 Hero, and instead of buying arrow shafts, which I believe you can do, or buying headless arrows, we're going to go ahead and make the arrow shafts ourselves, and then we're going to make the headless arrows. We can do that while multi-skilling. We can make arrows and we can make headless arrows while multi-skilling. We're probably going to be doing that during construction with mahogany homes, or there's a couple other skills that we would be doing, like running around. Obviously agility, which we'll get to pretty soon. So yeah, we're actually skilling on both accounts right now. Obviously on wait for it, we're gaining a whole ton of post 99 woodcutting EXP. We're actually over 21 mil already. I got a lot of EXP previously from a skill of the week. Otherwise, I'd still be relatively close to 13 mil or so, which is what 99 is. I may have mentioned this previously too, but we're actually pretty close to 1 billion total EXP on that account. So it'd be nice to get that milestone too, a pretty big one. But focusing back on 416 Hero here, we have about 11,000 or so gold ore left in the bank. But not to worry, we're pulling resources out from the maxed accounts bank, and because of all the changes of Xerix and various PVM content I've done over the years, I actually have 99 smithing entirely banked. It's just a matter of trading it on over to this account. It's honestly a bit weird because those resources, those supplies have probably been sitting in the bank, rotting away for the longest time, and I suppose because it's just easy to put in the bank, I've always kept the resources just in case I needed it for something. Well, I guess I did, because for some reason I decided to max 416 Hero, and the supplies are getting put to good use in that regard. I would like to get back to PVMing on that account at some point, but those arrow shafts aren't going to get themselves, and doing something like Blast Furnace, I mean, there's not much I could be doing on another account at the same time if I want to be doing this semi-efficiently or at any level of efficiency at all. Not to worry though, there are a lot of low intensity skills up ahead, like rune crafting. Even agility is relatively low intensity, and obviously mining as well. And depending on Slayer, depending on the task, those things can be pretty low intensity as well. Although I imagine I'm mostly going to focus on Barrage Slayer But yeah, we'll just see. There's plenty of opportunities in the future. I don't think I can stress enough just how far away we are from maxing. I recently had a conversation with a clanmate and I was just joking around how I was almost maxed. I was pretty close. But in reality, I'm actually only about 33% of the way there, currently at 1979 total. This is because a lot of the skills left are actually very slow. A couple of key skills here are going to take up most of the time. Mining, rune crafting, I think Slayer, and I have other skills that are pretty low, like 31 sailing. Although sailing is actually going to be pretty fast if I focus on doing Barracuda trials. I forgot what those were called for a second there. Just did a birdhouse run and I'm making my way back to the blast furnace. I noticed that this time around today, this session, for whatever reason, I'm actually achieving nearly 360k smithing EXP an hour. Whereas in the previous days, I was not reaching nearly as high. At most, I was topping out at like 330k. I don't know. Obviously, it is going to drop a little bit again now that I'm doing my birdhouse runs. For example, just from that one birdhouse run alone just now, it dropped from 360k down to 347k. But anyways, back at the blast furnace, we're going to be about 20 minutes, probably less than that, away from 92 smithing, halfway there. As far as the wood cutting and fletching for arrow shafts go, I think I need about 1 million, 1.1 million or so. I forget the exact number, but safe to say we need a whole ton of arrow shafts. And I do think we should be able to get this before we wrap up with smithing. I haven't calculated or anything, but considering I already have nearly 200k and we're not even halfway done with smithing, I think it's safe to say we should be able to reach the amount we need. Checking back into the blast furnace here, and with this batch of gold ore, head on over to the bar dispenser here, and we're going to be hitting 92 smithing. You can now make rune full helms and make rune throwing knives. Don't think I'll be doing either of those things, but halfway to 99. And we got less than 5k gold ore in the bank now. Now, I forget what level I started at with the gold ore grind here, but we've gone through about 100,000 gold ore, and obviously we're going to need another 100,000 or so to get to 99. Probably a bit more than that. It didn't seem that long ago where at any given hour we'd be gaining multiple levels here at the blast furnace, but we're now in the territory where it's taking closer to 2 hours to get to the next level. And obviously, it's only going to increase more and more up until like 1 million EXP just for the final 2 levels or so. And that's going to take like 3 hours or more. So yeah, it's really going to slow down here in terms of the levels, but we're going to keep at it. Time for another birdhouse run, and we're actually running out of magic logs on this account too. So this is the perfect chance for me, while I'm out of the blast furnace area and not ticking away, losing GP by the second, quite literally, I'm going to transfer some resources into the group storage over on the other account, and when we head back to the blast furnace, we should be able to pull out gold ore. We should be able to pull out some magic logs for our birdhouses, in which we only need another 138 birdhouses to do until we are on to redwoods. Back to the blast furnace, let's put away all these bird's nests and into the group storage. 200 magic logs available there, and another 100,000 gold ore. We might need a little bit more than that, but you know, when we get closer and closer, we'll look into just how many more we need. But now we have plenty to keep going for the majority of the grind. For those wondering how I managed to have this much gold ore, well, I've done a whole lot of PVMing on this account. Now, just how, or not this account, sorry, but on the maxed account. And just how much? Because 200,000 plus gold ore is a lot to have just sitting around extra in the bank for anybody. Well, that's because it took me a whopping 1,104 CMs, the majority of which were solo, and I don't know, about 300, 350 or so regular chambers as well, in order for me to get the twisted bow. Now, all the chambers alone right there was well over 100,000, probably closer to 150,000 gold ore. And then I'm sure the other 50,000 just came from motherlode mining, various other bosses. Honestly, off the top of my head right now, I can't think of other bosses that drop gold ore, but I'm sure there are some. Once you're in the rhythm here at Blast Furnace, you're just kind of in the flow and you don't have to think too much about anything. So as such, I'm kind of just left to my own thoughts while I'm woodcutting on one account and running back and forth running the gold ore on this account. Well, earlier I touched on where I got all this gold ore from because obviously all of this has already been sitting in my bank. I didn't need to go gather anything. I did say that the majority of it came from Chambers of Xerix, and that's definitely true. But what about the other remaining gold ore? Well, you know, this is such a terrible, terrible grind. It's a sore spot on the account progression, and that is Calvarion. We've been going after the Voidwaker Blade. Well, not presently. We haven't gone there in a while, and for good reason, because we're currently over 4 times dry on just the Voidwaker Blade alone. Never mind going to the other 2 bosses, we've been stuck at Calvarion for what seems like an eternity. My luck in the wilderness has just been very, very poor, both from the RNG drop standpoint, but also just dealing with bots and PKers. It's been a very unfortunate place for me. So yeah, to this day, I still don't have a Voidwaker, but Calvarion does drop 200 gold ore noted at a time. So definitely got a whole bunch of gold ore from that boss. And 2 to 3 hours later, with this inventory, that is 93 smithing, rune square shields, and Shazian plate bodies 5. Just under 750k EXP to go until 94. After a 3 to 4 hour session at the Blast Furnace, I'm taking a step back, a bit of a breather to do some fishing. As I stated before, the key to maxing is always just to be doing something. So while I do want something that's lower APM, lower intensity than Blast Furnace, Barbarian fishing is not so bad and we're still making progress towards maxing. Obviously, the priority right now is 99 smithing, and once I'm done with that, I'm going to turn most of my focus to here at Barbarian Fishing, and we're probably going to ramp it up some by 3-tick fishing here. I did bring the knife and teak log with me just to sprinkle this in every now and then, but for the most part, I'm just going to be AFK chilling this because, well, I'm coming here in my downtime when I don't feel like doing the Blast Furnace. I don't want to look too far ahead and get ahead of myself here, but once we're done with 99 smithing, we're going to be mostly here 3-tick fishing, as I just mentioned, but I'm going to start sprinkling in some RD rooftop course laps, which is something we've been working towards for the longest time now, and we're finally going to be able to get started on that. I say finally, but we still have 6 more smithing levels to obtain, as we're currently at a total of 7.4 mil smithing EXP, and obviously at 99 it's like 13 mil, so a ways away. Doing fishing after smithing is going to be slightly macro efficient as we're gaining a tiny bit of agility EXP before we get to 99 agility. I touched on this already, but what this also does is buy us more time. It'll buy us more time to chop these redwood logs and get arrow shafts. Now I do recognize that maybe in terms of getting arrow shafts, cutting redwoods isn't the most optimal thing, even though per log it is the most arrow shafts. But I don't know, acquiring redwood logs, I don't know how many you can get per hour. I guess up here, roughly 145 logs per hour. Maybe if we do the math, a lower tier log would be better, like maples or something. But you know what? I think it'll be fine. We're getting a lot of wood cutting EXP right now. Like I said, we're on our way to 1 bill total EXP, so I'd rather do this. Plus, this is incredibly AFK. Amidst the smithing and fishing grinds, we're obviously not going to be fletching because we can't. But while we train agility and while we train construction by means of mahogany homes anyways, we're definitely going to be able to multi-skill and get some fletching EXP along the way. In fact, I'm counting on it. I think a few episodes ago I did touch on maybe doing something else for fletching, but I've been putting more thought into it, and the thought of multi-skilling to 0 time fletching more or less is just too good to pass up. After all, right now we are trying to max before Raids 4 comes out, which in all honesty I feel like it's pretty unrealistic, but it is a nice motivation boost to kind of have like a deadline of sorts. And honestly, what's the big deal if I don't end up maxing in time? You know, my account will just have much higher stats and we'll be pretty close, I think. But yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. Raids 4 is more than likely going to come out beforehand, and at the time of this recording, there's no set date. All we know is late 2026. This actually happened a little while ago, but we hit level 104 woodcutting here at Redwoods. Obviously, that's a virtual level on the maxed account. I don't have that setting turned on. I don't know if it's a plugin or like a built-in game setting that I can turn on. Should we turn on virtual levels? I don't know. It's not something I really thought about before because, to be honest, levels, hypothetically, post 99 aren't relevant. They're just EXP milestones, but I guess it would be cool to see. You know the saying, so close, yet so far? Well, when you're past level 92 on any of the skills, that pretty much epitomizes that saying. With that being said, though, after what seems like an eternity, with this inventory, we are now 94 smithing, and so close, yet so far away from 99. Another day, another gaming session, and of course, another birdhouse run. It's kind of funny, when we first started our road to max, I was on a race against the clock, or so I thought. We were trying to get to 90 crafting before 89 hunter. Well, safe to say we did get to 90 crafting, and we've been on various grinds since then, and we're still not 89 hunter. Of course, we're relying on the birdhouses, but, you know, unless I was doing birdhouses and, like, never went to sleep, quite literally doing it every 50 minutes, maybe then I would have reached 89 hunter, but I guess crafting was just too easy of a skill to train, even when I don't want to pay too much attention, because, I mean, I'm just bank standing, I don't have to do too much. But 89 more birdhouses to go till 89 hunter. That's going to be probably over the course of maybe 2 to 3 days. So today, tomorrow, and then possibly the third day. Anyways, back to the blast furnace. We're sub 1 hour away from 95 smithing. The rest of these levels to 99 are probably going to take like a level a day, if not more. It's getting pretty rough out here, but we're getting it done. With a lot of the skills getting into the high 90s, you start to not really unlock anything. Although I do think smithing is the exception, but it's scaled in a really weird, outdated way. And you'll see right here as we hit level 95, we can now make rune battle axes. That is a very steep level requirement to make something as, quite honestly, pointless as a rune battle axe, and I believe it takes 99 smithing, in fact, to make a rune plate body. With the context of the overall game and how progression is now, honestly, it makes no sense, but this is just a product of its time, I suppose. I do wonder if they're ever going to rework this. Shortly after picking up that smithing level, I noticed I was pretty close to another fishing level, so I thought might as well make this push for it. Do a little bit 3-tick fishing. Again, a nice break away from the blast furnace as we've been spending so much time there. But here we go. 92 smithing, or see what I mean? You know, so much time at the blast furnace. I just said smithing instead of fishing. But there is 92 fishing. We're halfway there on this skill. All right, I'm done 3-ticking. I just wanted a 3-tick to make that push. I'm going to chill out here for a little bit, and then we'll find ourselves back at the blast furnace, because 96 smithing is not going to get itself, and currently we are 888,000 EXP away. Baguette chance. Never. Also, my clanmate just got PK'd by Eliop14, so pretty much non-stop chopping here at the Redwoods on wait for it, and we just reached 400,000 arrow shafts. Right now, we're at that point in the smithing grind where we can only really expect one smithing level a day at best. And to be honest, today in particular, it's been a bit of a struggle. I've messed up a lot more, so I've been wasting gold ore. I'm definitely going to need a couple of more to transfer over to the bank, because when you mess up, actually, it's pretty painful. It's more than 50% less EXP. When you mess up, you only gain about 600 and something smithing EXP or so, but if you're doing this correctly with the goldsmith gauntlets on, it's about a 1500 EXP drop, so pretty significant difference there. But yeah, as I said, it's been a bit of a struggle today, but nevertheless, we're pushing through. It is a little bit later in the night than usual compared to the other days in terms of the progress and where I'm at. Let's make sure we're stamina up here and a couple more inventories, and we're going to reach another level. We're getting so close. We're going to hit 96 smithing, and then just 3 more levels to go. But yeah, let's grab these gold bars and then another batch, and we should be good to hit 96. I wonder what we're going to unlock. Rune 2 hands maybe? I don't know. Maybe that's like 98 or something. Let's find out. Rune chainmails. Okay, okay. With all that being said, this is definitely enough blast furnace for today. As I said, I've been struggling through it. I'm just going to go relax at some barbarian fishing. Well, after the stamina pot runs out, I got another 3 minutes. Don't want to waste that. Honestly, a full day of not much progress. I've just been parked at barbarian fishing, and of course over here, I've been woodcutting and fletching away. We did pass 500,000 arrow shafts, so that's good news. But other than that, not much has been accomplished today. Not any smithing whatsoever. Partly because of motivation, and partly just because I haven't quite had the time to actively play as much. I have managed to park myself at barbarian fishing, and because of that, we're pretty close to 93. Even without tick manipulating, we should be there in about half an hour. But with all that being said, it's time for a birdhouse run, and we're still on magic logs like we have been for the longest time now. But I swear we are so close to redwoods. We got 18.8k to go until 89 hunter. What that really is just 17 more birdhouses, and after this trip, 13 more birdhouses. So that's really just going to be a couple of hours from now, assuming I can do these on cooldown. As far as smithing goes, well, last time I updated you guys on 96 smithing, and that was that. I haven't been back since. I think we'll be returning shortly though, but you know what? After this birdhouse run, there's another thing we have to do, and it is that time of the week to do Tears of Guthix. I actually don't know if it's been a week or not. It could have been more, probably more. I don't really do well with keeping up with Tears of Guthix. And to be honest, I never really did it much on other accounts, but I suppose while it's on the mind still, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Now, I thought there was a minigame teleport, but I think there's a teleport on the games necklace. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's check the ornate jewelry box here. Pretty sure it's here under the games necklace. Tears of Guthix. There we go. Let's go ahead and do a Tears of Guthix, and that's going to be sailing EXP for us. Alright, here we go. We were 31 sailing. Should get a level or 2, right, surely? 36! Okay, that's honestly more than I expected. And I believe this is a pretty big unlock, because if we take a look at Barracuda Trials, which is currently the best known... Oh, well, as I was saying, Barracuda Trials is the best sailing EXP available. Of course, it's also the most actively intensive method of training. I thought it was 35 for Temper Tantrum, but I misremembered. Turns out we could already do it at 30. Not that we have a boat that meets the requirements for that right now. We haven't really done any sailing activities outside of just like 2 of the 3 available quests at this point. But that was another 5 total levels, getting us closer, even if just a little bit, to the max total level. We're now 1990 total level, 10 levels removed from 2000. Right now, I think I'm going to go back to Barbarian Fishing just to pick up this next 26,000 EXP, just so we can get another level real quick, and then I'll try to sprinkle in some Blast Furnace Smithing again, because, well, 99 is not going to get itself. I had to start 3-ticking to speed this up, but in a couple of catches here. Obviously, when I start talking, I don't catch any, but there we go, and I closed out the chat box by accident, but that was 93 fishing, 6 more levels to go. But let's head to the bank and head back to Blast Furnace, because we got 3 more smithing levels to go. It is that time again for another birdhouse run. However, I am very excited for this one, as it is finally time to do redwood logs. Here we go, making my way to Fossil Island. Things could not have lined up any better, because it's going to take 1 birdhouse, this one right here. And there we have it, 89 hunter. You can now catch lucky implings and place redwood birdhouse traps on Fossil Island. Feels like such a long time coming. And there we go, our first redwood birdhouse on the account. I gotta be honest, at this point in the smithing grind, I'm kind of mentally checked out. I'm ready to move on, but we're so close, and we're one step closer with this inventory. 97 smithing, the ability to make rune kite shields. With just 2 levels away until 99, I'm just gonna make the final push over the next couple of days, and yeah, we'll be able to move on then. But yeah, at this point, I'm already mentally checked out, honestly. This pretty much took me the entire day, but I'm so glad to get this level because after this, it just means one more level to go. 98 smithing. We can now make rune claws. Yeah, we're never going to do that, but it is going to take us a whole nother day to get to 99. But at least I know it'll be one final day and we'll be done with smithing for the foreseeable future. Except, you know, in the future when I need some, like, bolts or something. But, you know, we're not going to be spending a whole day smithing over and over again. But yeah, we're going to need another 1.2 mil to get to 99. And then we're going to shift our focus to both fishing and agility. Again, fishing is going to be our downtime activity when we want to just chill a little bit more. And then we'll try to do agility when we're more actively sitting in front of our desk. And with hitting level 98 smithing, let's check in on the wood cutting progress so far. We have 732,000 arrow shafts. That's still not going to be enough though. But not to worry, as we do our fishing grind and in the middle of our agility grind, we'll also continue to do this. At some point though, I will have to actually handle the other portion of the arrows because obviously while we have arrow shafts, we're going to need the feathers and we're going to need arrow heads. Obviously, I want to be fletching as I'm training agility for a bit of macro efficiency, but we're probably not going to get enough arrow shafts by the time we start training agility because obviously since hitting 98 smithing, we're just one day away, give or take, in accomplishing 99. Not to worry though, even if somehow we get to 99 agility, which I think is highly unlikely, and we're still not ready, we're also going to have an opportunity in multi-skill when we do construction with mahogany homes. But like I said, that's highly unlikely because agility is going to be a very slow skill compared to smithing. And right now we're still 90 agility, so not even halfway there. As I've said before, at this point when you're that high level, just a couple of levels till 99, each level takes an entire day, even with a skill as fast as smithing, because at that point it's like 1 mil, over 1 mil EXP a day. But another day, another level, and this time, for the final time, we can finally leave the blast furnace. There it is, 99 smithing. 199 down, and honestly I'm not too sure how many more to go, but quite a bit. We're 1995 total level now. Let's get out of here. Well, since we're on the maxing grind, we're not done yet, but before we move on with smithing entirely, let's go claim our cape here with Thurgo at Mudskipper Point. As with all capes, it costs 99k, but not a problem here. We have plenty of GP. The smithing cape and hood, and you know, honestly, I don't know if this cape has any perks. Oh, it looks like it has a boost so you can get to 100 smithing. But is there a point to that? I don't know. But that is smithing done officially. I will catch you guys on the next one where we focus on some other skills. Welcome back to another GIM video. Previously, we accomplished 99 smithing, another 99 down on our way to maxing 416 hero. Currently, we're just barbarian fishing and we're going to pick up a level here real quick before we move on to other things. Currently, no. Has this happened to you guys? You do a birdhouse run only to find out you forgot or misclicked, whatever the reason is, you didn't have seeds in your birdhouse from the previous run, and it's just the one too. That's unfortunate. Anyways, welcome back to another GIM series video. Recently, we've been on the maxing grind on 416 hero here, and on this account, we're 1996 total. Now, for those unfamiliar, why am I clarifying this account? Well, this is a Dolo GIM series in which I already have a maxed Grandmaster Ironman. That was, well, it wasn't quite Grandmaster yet. You can check out the Grandmaster playlist series, mini-series on the channel, but The point is, we're in the middle of the maxing grind on 416 Hero at 1996 total. We recently accomplished 99 smithing, and we also did the RD Elite Diary, setting us up to do the agility grind up to 99 at the RD Rooftop course. Now, currently our chill, low intensity grind is barbarian fishing because we're 94 fishing and we need that to get to 99 as well, obviously. Plus, it's a little macro efficient to be doing this as we do gain a good bit of agility EXP along the way. This is the aforementioned Max Grandmaster account, and currently we're chopping redwoods and we're up to 890k arrow shafts. We've been at this grind for quite some time now because we're trying to get enough arrow shafts to get 99 fletching for 416 Hero. So on this account, we'll be doing grinds that will help the maxing grind, as well as just doing its independent individual PVM based grinds. But this was a pretty big task, more so than I thought, to be honest, and it's been taking longer than I thought, but we're close to the finish line in terms of the arrow shafts. There are other things to take care of though. So now that we've established that, what is our current goal? Well, I'm yapping away right now, so I'm just barbarian fishing, easy enough, but we are going to start doing agility. While I do wish I had the arrow shafts prepared already and the feathers and the arrows and all that, I am going to start the agility grind anyways at the RD Rooftop course. This was actually a long time coming. We did a lot of things to set us up for this, and we're finally going to get started on that. I would like to be fletching already to be efficient, but no worries there. Agility is going to be a very, very long grind. So we're going to have the fletching resources available sooner than later, well before we're even 99 agility. Plus, I did mention this in the previous video, if it ever comes down to it, for some reason we're 99 agility already, we can also multi-skill amidst our construction training by means of mahogany homes. I'm sure if you've been following along or even just tuning into this video right now, you might be wondering, if you already have a maxed Grandmaster Ironman account, why are you going for a second maxed Ironman account of the exact same account type? Maybe you could start a hardcore or an ultimate. While those things have been on my mind and I have been cooking in the lab in the background, perhaps one day we'll start a series on one of those account types. Currently, I don't have any immediate plans for those. And with having a maxed Grandmaster account already, there's not much on the menu in terms of grinds to do, and as such, we're kind of in a Raids 4 waiting room. Now, because we're so far away from maxing, it is a nice goal to have for a long-term goal, and I highly doubt that we're going to reach max level before the release of Raids 4. At the point of this recording right now, there's no current set date for Raids 4. All I know is that it's coming at the end of the year. So like I said, it's a nice long-term goal to have to keep myself busy until Raids 4 comes out, and if we don't reach max level before Raids 4, there's no big deal. There's really no downside to it. Beyond that, I've coined the series, the long-running series by now, the Dolo Gim series. Well, to be honest, it's kind of one-sided, having one maxed account and one other account with not too many other stats besides combat stats on it. So the relationship between the two accounts is kind of one-sided in the sense that, wait for it here, is always feeding supplies to 416 Hero. Well, if I start training up the skills on 416 Hero, it can be a more mutually beneficial type of situation between the two accounts. For example, one of the things that I'm always having an upkeep as an endgame Ironman is blood runes because of scythe charges, barrage, and just runes in general, right? Well, imagine if I could be PVMing, going for green logs on the Max Grandmaster account here, while I upkeep those runes on the other account. That's just one such example and why it would be nice to have two maxed accounts, or two highly skilled accounts anyways. Currently I'm feeling a bit lazy, so I'm continuing to chop the redwoods as we do for these arrow shafts, and over on 416 Hero, I'm still at barbarian fishing. Haven't quite started on the agility laps again. I've touched on this in previous videos, but the key to maxing really is to just always be doing something. Even if it's slow, something is better than nothing. While I'm not doing anything too intensive, let me go over the game plan for what's to come, because we're almost done with the arrow shafts, and once we purchase the feathers, actually we might not even need to buy the feathers. I think I have a bunch from all the birdhouse runs I've done over the years. What we do need to purchase though is broad arrow tips. Yeah, that's going to be pretty pricey, but I think the combination of GP on both accounts should net me enough to afford that, although we'll be pretty poor afterwards. And once all the fletching resources are gathered, I'm going to be switching this account over to gathering some sort of prayer EXP. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do yet, whether I'm just going to go AFK some blue dragons underneath the Myth Guild, or if I want to tackle some bosses. 416 hero is just 63 prayer, and I capped this specifically on purpose, along with 50 defense and 82 attack. 50 defense is just enough for the Moon's Gear, and 63 prayer is just enough for the prayers at Royal Titans. 82 attack is a little arbitrary, but that's just the max actual level requirement for any of the weapons. I think 82 is the Osmumtum's Fang, for example. I technically have access to all weaponry, except I am self-limited because obviously I don't want to gain attack or defense EXP, so I can't use something like a Dragon Hunter Lance or even a Zami Hasta. Now, obviously, I mentioned that I'm maxing, so I will be foregoing these stat restrictions in the future. I do want to hold on to 50 defense as long as I can, just in case there are some milestones or achievements I want to go after. But I think I'm more than okay to let go of attack, and especially prayer, sooner than later. I've been looking ahead to do Slayer relatively soon, probably after agility maybe, and I think I want to get my prayer levels up higher sooner than later, because I was thinking of doing Barrage Slayer, and it'd be very, very annoying to do Barrage Slayer where you're burning up prayer potions and prayer, and I'm at just 63 prayer. That would be very, very costly. Across the two accounts, I do have a significant amount of prayer EXP banked right now, but I'm definitely going to need a lot more. And my game plan is to use the Varlamore prayer method. I don't really want to deal with the wilderness right now, so I am going to have to gather a bit more bones for prayer EXP, but I think that's a trade-off I'm willing to take. Anyways, we'll come back to this conversation in the future. Right now, I still need to gather the remaining arrow shafts. It's time for another birdhouse run though, so we're just momentarily taking a step away from the barbarian fishing, and this time around I made sure that all my birdhouses had seeds in them. It's always such a tragedy when you forget to put seeds in them, especially just one. Now, like, you're not in an even number, you know, it's just weird. I don't know, it's an OCD thing, I suppose. But this time around, we made sure to have all four. Let's just head on over to this last birdhouse here, which I think I've heard rumblings that it's actually inefficient to run to this one and do it, but I think that's not something that really concerns us. Why would you not go for all four birdhouses, right? I don't know, but I think technically speaking, if you do the math, it's not worth it. I don't know, who knows. We're currently at 945,000 arrow shafts now, and we're pretty close to the amount we need. And which I actually had to do the math and figure out exactly how many we needed. We have another 55,100 courtesy of 416 hero. I know I'm actually going to be trading it back over to 416 hero, but in the name of keeping track of how many I have, which is now exactly 1,475,000 that is, we're going to need another 85,000 or so, and then we'll be done with this part of the grind. Alright, I have finally convinced myself to leave the grotto, Otto's grotto that is, where we barbarian fish, and I'm going to start doing RD rooftop laps now. Now, I have done the one lap for the actual diary, and right now I'm not fletching just yet as I'm still building up the arrow shafts, but what I am doing is making some GP. I guess magic EXP is being gained as well, as we're 98 magic, and we've been this level for the longest time for some reason. We just never did any more combat to get to 99, I suppose. But we're mostly alking for the GP, and that's because this fletching grind is going to be very expensive. I mentioned that there are other parts beyond just the arrow shafts that we need. The arrow shafts are completely free, right? I just have to spend some time on the maxed account chopping redwood logs and fletching them, but I am going to have to purchase more feathers, as I have a total of about 300,000 combined across the two accounts. I'm going to need another 700 to 800k. Never mind the fact that we're going to be using more feathers when it comes to barbarian fishing, in which we're nowhere near done. We're just 94 fishing. And actually, it's not so much about buying the feathers. That's probably chump change in comparison to the amount of GP that we're going to need to spend for the broad arrowheads. Arrowhead tips, whatever they're officially called in the game, but you know what I mean. The ones that you purchase from the Slayer Master. This is going to be roughly 6 GP per EXP, according to the wiki anyways. So it's going to cost us probably somewhere around the ballpark of 60 million GP. Now, across the two accounts, I definitely don't have 60 mil GP right now, at least not in liquidated GP. I do have, however, a ton of fire battle staves, as well as the other elemental ones from our previous crafting grind up to 90 crafting, which is what we needed for the redwood birdhouses. There's also other alchables probably stashed into the bank between the two accounts, in which I will figure out. But while I'm running this course for now, I'm going to be high alching. I think recently I've used the term macro efficiency a few times, and that mostly pertains to us barbarian fishing for not only fishing EXP, but the agility EXP from that as well. And to show just how much of an impact that has made, we stopped training agility once we reached 90 so that we could go do the RD Elite Diary. We haven't actually trained any agility directly beyond these 23 laps that we just did in the last couple of minutes. Instead, we've been gaining agility EXP at Barbarian Fishing. And we're actually halfway through 90 agility, well on our way to 91 already, solely thanks to Barbarian Fishing. Almost 50 laps into the course now, so we're getting pretty comfortable here, and due to the nature of this grind, I'm just browsing the internet and whatnot, and a thought just occurred to me, and I went ahead and checked the wiki page for the RD Rooftop course, and just agility in general. And it just occurred to me, I may have been inadvertently spreading misinformation about the RD Elite Diary and how it pertains to this course. While it does increase the marks of grace you get per hour pretty significantly, a jump between 17 to 18 without the diary to 20 to 22 with the diary. I think I've also mentioned that it increases EXP, but I don't believe that's actually to be the case. Now, the reason why I have been saying this is because back when we were still on the Relica course, I realized that the Relica Diary, or the Fremennik Diary, I should say, not only increases marks of grace per hour, but it also does increase EXP. And this is actually the case for the Sears course, the Polonivnich course, probably just butchered that. But this is not the case for the RD course and the RD Elite Diary, respectively. In fact, it's not even the Elite Diary. It gets even more confusing than this. For Relica, you only need the completion of the Hard Diary to get the bonus marks and bonus EXP. However, for the RD Diary or the RD course, you need the Elite Diary for the bonus marks of grace, but there is no bonus whatsoever in terms of experience per hour. So that's a bit unfortunate, but hey, you know what? Nevertheless, it's good to get the diary done. And the marks of grace, I mean, why not get a few extras on the grind, right? I say a few, but it's really going to add up as, well, we just hit lap number 50, and there's going to be tens of more laps, hundreds of more laps, and thousands of more laps. We're probably going to be upwards of 8,000 laps or so, even accounting for the fact that we're going to continue to gain some passive EXP by way of barbarian fishing. A bit of a ramble here, I know, but, you know, it's a bit of a shame that I'm just now realizing I've been spouting out the wrong information, but better late than never to correct myself, I suppose. Anyways, while we're on the topic of EXP per hour, we should expect roughly 66 to 70,000 EXP per hour here, which is pretty good for the agility skill. Obviously, in some other skills, like where we just came from, smithing, that is a very slow rate, but this is as good as it gets, I think. Checking in on wait for it again, we are now up to 1,019,000 arrow shafts. So we're closing in on the 1,085,000 that we need. Now, earlier I mentioned that, you know, we're considering our options as to how we want to go about collecting prayer EXP. Initially, I thought I could potentially do some bosses or something, but if I'm going to be semi-efficient doing agility in combination with high alching and fletching when the time comes, well, it's going to be next to impossible to actually do any boss, especially ones that actually drop prayer EXP, like Vorkath, with the superior bones and even the noted bones. So I don't think I have too many options, to be honest. How I did the 99 prayer grind prior was I went to the Mist Guild and farmed up blue dragons in the basement, in the cavern underneath. And I'm thinking at this point in time, we might just do that again. Of course, we can always stagger the grinds and do things at a different timing and separate of each other, but this is as good as a time as any to get the prayer EXP. We're taking full advantage of the fact that we're playing both accounts at the same time, and this is going to be a massive time save if I could collect my prayer EXP before actually even training the skill, while I'm actively training 1 to 2 of the other skills. Now, the details of this could be a bit hazy as this was a while ago, but I'm fairly certain the last time I did the agility grind from 90 to 99 here at this exact same rooftop course, I witnessed a friend play RuneScape for the first time on an Ironman no less, off a tutorial island all the way up to like 1700 total level in the time frame it took me to get from 90 to 99 agility here at this course. So yeah, we're gonna be here for the long haul, to say the least. It's time for a birdhouse run, but we can continue to high alch, so doing this is always very satisfying in my opinion. In the early mid game when you're progressing your account, like, you just find yourself always alching or fletching or doing something, and while it is a lot of clicking, it's also really satisfying to gain all that EXP, and in this case GP as well, constantly. Now, speaking of the GP, when I pulled out the battle staves, I was thinking I'd have to not only go through these fire ones, but the air ones and all the other ones that we went through for our crafting grind. Well, that might not end up being the case because these bad boys are worth 9.3k a pop. And you can see here when I hover over it, it actually says I have 23.5 mil worth of those, and I already have 3.6 mil in my inventory here. So safe to say we're going to be getting a lot of GP. I think I have about 50 million, give or take, across the 2 accounts. So by the time we're done high alching, we're going to be pretty rich, all things considered. All that for the GP to disappear very quickly though, but it is what it is in the name of maxing. We've been on autopilot and I actually missed the 100 lap milestone. Not to worry though, there's going to be plenty more milestones to catch in the future. Fresh off another birdhouse run, and we're going to take a bit of a break from the agility already, so we're going to head on over to barbarian fishing. But before we do that, I kind of want to keep track of our marks of grace. The 828 we have in our bank is from all the other previous courses, but the 35 we have in our inventory right now is exclusively from the RD rooftop course. So curious to see how many of these marks of grace we'll end up with. Another day and we're back to running laps on the RD rooftop. But more importantly, over on Wait For It, as we've been chopping all these redwoods, we actually have more than enough arrow shafts finally. I don't know how long I've been doing this. I've been doing this across multiple grinds, it feels like. And we finally have the 1,085,000 arrow shafts that we need. And some change, actually. Let's just finish out this inventory and then let's go figure out how we want to go about getting the other supplies that we need. Alright, I've gone ahead and done my Ironman chores, aka farm run, birdhouse run, and the works, and we made our way over to Port Sarim here, specifically in the fishing shop, and we're going to speak to Geralt, what's his name? Geralt. I thought it was like Geralt or something, like from The Witcher. But anyways, we're here to purchase feather packs. Now, I gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of shopscaping, and I probably have touched on this in the past, but when there's an opportunity to avoid doing this, I very much would like to take the alternate path. For example, I would rather craft my blood runes than to shopscape for blood runes, especially with the existence of the Guardians of the Rift outfit. But when it comes to feathers, I don't really have any options. While I do a lot of birdhouse runs, and we have 234k on this account, and currently on 416 Hero, we have 113k. This is all from birdhouse runs, by the way. And I don't know. I don't know what bosses might drop feathers. Although I highly doubt I picked up feathers while PVMing. But the point is, we need at least another 700k or so feathers for this fletching grind. And to be honest, we need even more than that because we're going to be using the feathers at barbarian fishing. So without further ado, I don't know how expensive this is going to be, but this isn't even going to be the most expensive part. The feathers are relatively cheap, all things considered. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to buy out the stock and then hop worlds. Probably not the most cost efficient, but the less worlds I have to hop, the better. So yeah, I'm going to be doing this while I'm running laps on the other account, and then I suppose I'll check back in with you guys when I'm finally done purchasing all these feathers. Okay, nowhere near done purchasing. In fact, I barely just got started, but there are two choices I can make. I can spam click and clear out the feather packs quicker, and I'd have to hop worlds. Or I can do it the lazy, slow way and have it automatically open packs for me, and I won't need to world hop because by the time I'm done opening it, the shop actually restocks itself in time. Well, considering I'm doing this on, I mean, I was going to call this an alt account, but it's my maxed account. But the point is, you know, I'm not doing it on the account that I'm actively trying to skill on, so you know what, I'm just going to take my time here. After over 300 laps here at the RD rooftop, of course, we were already 50% of the way through 90 because of barbarian fishing. We're finally going to get our first level here at the RD rooftop. I think anyways. Nope, we are 101 EXP shy. I imagine that's just one or two more of these obstacles, but we're going to be hitting 91 agility. The first level out of 10 levels that we're going to need to get, or actually 9 levels, I suppose, 99. But there it is, 91 agility. You can now use the Beleti Caves Cliff shortcut. Quite frankly, I'm not even sure what that is. I'm not even sure what region that is. But all those laps later, we're still opening these feather packs because, as I touched on before, we're just kind of letting it do its thing instead of manually clicking each pack. We're up to 723k total feathers now, and we're going to need pretty much another 300k more. Now, our coin stack, I really do wish I took a better look at this before we started, but we were over 24 mil, probably pretty close to 25, and right now we're down to 23.6. So honestly, not too bad. I thought the damage would be worse, but the real damage comes in when we get the broad arrowheads. Peeling off the rooftop course because it's that time for another birdhouse run. And speaking of birdhouses, Hunter EXP, I feel like ever since we hit level 89 to do these redwoods here, we've actually been gaining EXP very quickly. I've been doing the same thing, trying to do them every 50 minutes as long as I'm online, and currently we're already, where's Hunter? We're already 42% of the way to 90, 290k EXP to go. Now, if I'm not mistaken, each time we do a birdhouse run, it's actually 4.8k EXP. It's not too much more than previously with the magics, probably another 400 EXP per run or so, but it feels like it makes a big difference. I've been high alching these fire battle staves the entire time we've been doing the rooftop courses, and we had like 2.5k or so, closer to 3k, and now we're just below 500 of these left. Alching all of the fire battle staves I had was worth about 25 mil or so. Of course, we have just the 10 mil in the bank. Let's hit the bank right now to see what our total GP is. Let's not forget that we have 23 mil and some change over on the maxed account. And honestly, the majority of this is going to go into the broad arrowheads. I cannot stress enough how expensive that's going to be. But we have 38 mil in the bank, so yeah, right now, this is probably the most GP we've ever had. I should probably put away all these bird's nests and whatnot. But yeah, right now, this is probably the most GP we've ever had on the account, or on the accounts together. I never really have too much GPs in one go, but this is gonna disappear very quickly once I'm done buying the feathers and then the broad arrowheads. Speaking of the feathers though, We are very close to being done. We're approaching 1 million feathers. Honestly, if we include the 113k we already have sitting on 416 Hero, we have more than enough. But again, I am buying extras right now because I'm accounting for the fact that I'm going to be barbarian fishing when I'm not too actively playing and I just want something chill to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get the 1,085,000 feathers I need at the fishing shop right now. And I'll just hold on to these extra 100k or so feathers for when I want to do barbarian fishing. For the traditional solo Ironman out there, this broad arrow fletching method is still very efficient for you, although I wouldn't recommend AFK purchasing the feathers like I have been doing right now. If you were just playing the one account, the regular Ironman, I would probably opt to suck it up and hop worlds or even just buy out the shop completely just to get this done faster, because as you've noticed, I've done hundreds of laps at the RD course now and I'm still not done purchasing all the feathers. But that's because I'm doing it the lazy way. Knowing the fact that I'm playing on 2 accounts at once, I'm still actively trading on this account, so it's not too much of a time loss. In fact, it's technically 0 time. Although the quicker I get done with purchasing all the feathers and broad arrowheads, the quicker I move on to collecting my prayer EXP. But I just wanted to let anybody know that might have been interested in getting fletching EXP on the way to 99 for themselves as well. Of course, there are other methods like just bank standing and fletching longbows and whatnot, but this is the most time efficient way. If you can figure out a good way for yourself to get GP, be it the Corrupted Gauntlet or something else, it's well worth the time to just buy the arrow shafts. Speaking of which, I took the time to woodcut and fletch my arrow shafts, but I do believe headless arrows are purchasable at the Ranging Guild, if I'm not mistaken. So that's even more of a time save there. That's just something you want to weigh yourself. You know, how much GP you have, how quickly you can make GP. More times than not, you're actually able to make enough GP, and that's the more efficient way. But for me, with my 2 accounts, I just want to prioritize EXP more than anything, and my road to getting all those arrow shafts, I gained a nice bit of woodcutting EXP, as well as a little bit of fletching EXP on my maxed account. When I was just playing Wait For It before the existence of 416 Hero, this was the exact method I did to train my fletching, and agility for that matter. I also did plenty of fletching during the Mahogany Homes grind, and we're going to be looking to do that again. But yeah, like I said, this is very much a viable method, even if you're a solo Ironman or a hardcore or whatever. But I'm just doing this with a twist because of my 2 account GIM situation. Over on Wait For It, we finally finished purchasing all our feathers. That actually took me the entire day pretty much, 4 hours logged in, and we did world hop a little bit in the beginning, so over 4 hours it took me to purchase about 800k give or take feathers. Yeah, that's right, we did already have like 200k or so sitting in the bank, so we didn't outright buy 1,085,000 feathers. Nevertheless, 800k, over 800k feathers took me most of my day to purchase, and that's just because I was doing it the slow way. If you're a solo Ironman, I highly encourage just world hopping or, at least more actively opening the packs yourself. But obviously in my case, since I was doing this in the background, I didn't really care how long it took, but we're finally done. And that did cost me about 3 to 4 million GP. So we're standing here at Curdell right now because, well, we have our feathers, we have our arrow shafts. Now it's time to dump all our money in purchasing not the broad bolt packs, but the arrowhead packs here. These things at full stock cost 5.5k each. And how much is one pack again? 100? I actually didn't, let me do that again. I actually didn't even see it. Let's see. I already have 14,000 or 13,000 just like in my bank from before. Each pack is 100. Okay. So yeah, this is going to be pretty costly, and I might be more careful with this. As you can see, the stock, I should say, doesn't restock quite as fast like the feathers do, so it can get pretty pricey. So initially, well, actually, did they change this? Is it the same value now? Let's find out. If we buy another pack or bunch of packs, how much does it cost now? Is it still 5.5k per pack? No, it does increase. Okay. It's just the max stock is 800. All right. Well, we'll keep that in mind. It does fluctuate, the value, the cost of each does change. So we're probably not going to purchase too many at a time, but we're going to need 1,085,000 of these as well. And currently the 22 million and some change we have in GP sitting in our inventory right now is not going to be enough. This is going to cost about 60 million. That's why we've been high alking the fire staves we crafted previously all this time. The GP across 2 accounts should be enough to cover the cost now, but by the time I'm done, I'm going to have little to no GP left over, I don't think. You know what, now that I started buying, it does look like if I just fill my inventory out with packs, it does restock fast enough to where by the time I'm done automatically opening these, the stock does fully restock, so the pricing shouldn't be too bad. I'm just going to employ the same strategy and method I did at the fishing shop for feathers here as well. This is going to take even longer, I imagine, but that's okay. We're not doing anything other than running around the RD rooftop over and over again anyways. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another GIM video and another intro recorded at Otto's Grotto while we're barbarian fishing. On the way to maxing, it's important to always be doing something, and for the foreseeable future, at least until we hit 99 fishing, the best place to record my intro while skilling and progressing and still being able to speak coherently and think about what I'm saying is barbarian fishing. Previously, well, we've been doing a lot of barbarian fishing, we've been doing a lot of agility, and we've been doing a lot of resource gathering on the already maxed account in the game to prepare ourselves for various other skilling grinds. As for the resource gathering, I guess more specifically, we've been working on collecting fletching EXP, and then we look ahead as to how we're going to tackle getting prayer EXP. Back on the RD rooftops, we are now under 200 fire battle staves remaining, and I think I'm going to call it there in terms of all the high alking. We have 12 mil sitting in our inventory right now, and then we have another 38 mil, I think, last time I checked, in the bank, and then we have the 20-something mil where we're purchasing the broad arrowheads right now. I'm going to save the rest of these battle staves. We obviously have a bunch in the other elements, like the earth and air ones, that we're going to save for a rainy day, but I do think we have more than enough for all the broad arrowheads now. I'm going to take a bit of a break in multi-skilling in that regard and just simply do the agility laps because, well, once we start the fletching, we're going to be doing that for quite a while. So I'm going to take the chance to just sit back and relax while I still can. If we can get all the fletching done while we're still doing agility, it means our construction grind is going to be super laid back as we won't have to multi-skill then. Simply just fly around the map, teleport to the different cities and towns, and do our Mahogany Homes contracts. But we'll see what happens. As of right now, I don't know when I plan on doing construction. I do know that I want to get 99 agility out of the way, and hopefully along the way we get 99 fletching. If not, no big deal, we'll continue that another time. I do have to look ahead, and I'm thinking I want to do Slayer sooner than later, and that kind of goes hand in hand with prayer, because I want to get higher prayer to do Slayer more efficiently, but there's also a whole ton of other skills left. We're currently 1997 total level, so we're very far ahead, or far away, and we are a long ways away from maxing. Another day on the RD rooftop course. Now, previously I said that because I'm still buying the arrowheads, I'm just going to chill in terms of multi-skilling, but that's not true. I have these arrow shafts and feathers that I can go ahead and start making into headless arrows already. This is not going to be too much EXP, but obviously this is a very important step, and in my roughly 1.1 million number, this is something I took into account, so I might as well get started on this. I guess there's not too much downtime or time to just sit back and relax after all. Let's get started on these headless arrows. The first of many. Now I gotta figure out a way to do this efficiently because honestly on this course there's not too many windows to get too many of them in. I think the strategy here is I'm just going to have to hold down spacebar. For example, this longer run right here, I could probably get in a few EXP drops, 2 even right there. And then Obviously, I can't get any right here. So yeah, we're going to feel this out and see where we can fit fletching in. High alking, unironically, was actually easier. Alright, we're a few laps into this now, and I've began fletching, and I discovered there's really only 2 segments of this course in which I can do it somewhat efficiently. So right here, I can get 2 EXP drops in, and then obviously I have to click, and right here is a pretty long animation of my character just, hopping over the stalls on the floor there, and then we start a new lap. And right at the beginning of this new lap, again, right here is where I can get like 2 fletching EXP drops. And I think that's about it, really. It's hard to squeeze in any fletching at the north side over here, so I don't think we can really get that in. Now, if we were making darts or something, that might be a different story. But here, we have to click on the arrow shafts, then the feathers, and hold down spacebar. And it does take, like, we're going to try right here, right? I end up having to pause right here, which is, like, not too big of a deal, but it's not really zero timing if you have to slow down, right? So yeah, I'm going to be mindful of that and keep my agility EXP rates up. Not that we're like sweating too hard or anything, but it would be a bit silly to slow our agility EXP down in the name of getting fletching when we're trying to zero time fletching more or less. Another nice little milestone here. This is actually the completion of 501, but we passed 500. Another 500 to go for the big 1000, and then again, we've been doing barbarian fishing, so I'm curious to see how many laps that's really going to save us, but we should be expecting to do over 8,000 laps. We now have 424,000 broad arrowheads, but we just have 1.5k GP left. Prior to this, after we were done buying all the feathers, we still had over 20 mil. Now we're left with nothing. So over on the other account, because of all the alking we've been doing, I do have 51 mil on this account. I'm just going to go ahead and dump all of that into group storage right now so I can continue purchasing broad arrowheads. I think I should still have some GP left over by the time I'm done purchasing. Hopefully anyways. If not, we're going to have to continue to high alk once again. Fletching the arrow shafts into headless arrows is not that much EXP at all, but after going through, or when I go through all 1,085,000, that's going to be 1,085,000 EXP. And funny enough, I'm not exactly gaining the most EXP while I'm on the course. I'm actually gaining the bulk of the fletching EXP while I'm doing the birdhouse run. As I run from birdhouse to birdhouse, I'm getting the fletching in, and you can see each EXP drop is just 15. But yeah, it's going to be slow going right now, but the moment we're done with making all of them into headless arrows, we're going to start making the broad arrows, and the EXP is really going to pick up. Speaking of the broad arrows, in terms of the arrowheads, we're now just under 700k, and once again, the cash stack is depleting. We started out with like 51 mil after we traded over more GP, and now we're down to 35 mil. It should cost us, I don't know, another 25 mil or so to get to the number we need. Initially, I was under the impression that we'd be done with fletching well before agility. Now, I'm not so sure anymore. In order for us to keep up a relatively efficient level of agility training, we can really only get like 4 EXP drops in terms of fletching per lap. So that's way more agility EXP than fletching EXP an hour. At least right now anyways, with the arrow shafts. Again, every 50 minutes we do a birdhouse run, and during that time I actually get a lot more headless arrows made rather than the, I don't know, what is it, like less than 100 arrow shafts I make per lap here at the Arty course. Of course, we're doing hundreds and thousands of laps here though, speaking of which we're over 600 laps here now. But again, the magic number is 8,600 something. Maybe save a couple hundred laps courtesy of barbarian fishing, but we'll see where we end up. And while we're doing the laps, I've been looking ahead, and something I have to consider is herb lore. I've mentioned that I have most 99s banked in the account, and in terms of the actual herbs, I do have the herbs needed to get to 99. But secondaries are a different story. I'm going to have to definitely buy more Eye of Newts for super attacks, and collect other secondaries. Some are more painful to collect than others. For example, I'm actually going to have to do herb and flower runs for limpwort roots. But I've been thinking, these marks of grace that Honestly, I've put a really low priority and emphasis on, like I said, it's always about the EXP and not so much the marks of grace, but this could come in handy for Herblore EXP as we make staminas as well as extended staminas. The secondaries for those are very easy to obtain, that being the Mort Meyer fungus. I think maxing the GIM the second time around on this account is honestly not too different than maxing the first time on a solo Ironman, with a few exceptions. For example, crafting, we've heavily relied on gems and battle staves, something that's certainly not the case when you're playing a singular Ironman. You're definitely going to have to do your giant seedweed runs and mine a whole lot of sand for molten glass. As for the other skills though, the strategy is the same, except I have the luxury of saving myself some time by doing the resource gathering while I'm training another skill. So a huge time save in that regard. For example, right now we've been buying arrowheads while I'm training agility. And when it comes to Herblore, I'm going to be collecting secondaries on the maxed account while I'm either actively already training Herblore or yet again doing another skill. When it comes to construction, luckily I already have the planks banked, but we're still going to be using the mahogany home scaling method because that's going to be the best value for our planks. Plus, if we're doing it like a more traditional construction method, I actually don't have enough GP or the planks to do so. It's been quite some time, but we surpassed the 1 million threshold for the broad arrowheads. Just another 80,000 or so to go, and then we'll trade these on over to 416 Hero. And then we'll begin sorting out our prayer situation. Now, how long has it been? Well, I'm on lap 711 at the RD rooftop course now, so yeah, AFK purchasing the broad arrow packs is pretty much as slow as buying the feathers was, but you know what, that's fine. Better than world hopping and spam clicking, in my opinion. Oh wow, I was not paying close enough attention. We got a little extra. Maybe we'll end up needing it just due to some miscalculations and whatnot. So 1,088,000 broad arrowheads. Went ahead and chucked those broad arrowheads into group storage. We have 14 mil GP left over. Almost on the dot actually, 14,006,000 GP. What that means is we spent, just about 60 million GP on the broad arrowheads and the feathers, so a lot of GP, obviously. In fact, the most GP I've ever had on the account at once, but well worth it, I would say. I'm going to go ahead and collect those broad arrowheads on the other account, although I'm going to finish up the headless arrows first before I even start working on broad arrowheads. Kind of delay the gratification of the better EXP drops, if that makes sense. Alright, with all the shopscaping for fletching out of the way, let's move on to what we need to collect next for prayer. We're going to be collecting dragon bones as our main means of prayer EXP, and how we're going to do that is we're going to be doing blue dragons in the basement of the Myths Guild, which is where we're at now. So let's actually hop in there. Let's sip our anti-fire potion. We do have the one doser. Our Quake prayers should be set, I guess it's not set, but it should be set to piety and protect melee. And we're going to run somewhere over here. Let's make sure we have auto retaliate on. And yeah, it could be a little awkward sometimes just based on the size of these blue dragons. We're like inadvertently being safe spotted right now. But if we just maneuver a little bit around. In fact, let's disable sound as well. We really don't need to be hearing these blue dragons right now. In the background, this should be nice and chill. We might opt against using piety. I'm not too sure. We could also adjust our inventory setup a little bit here. We're going to be taking the dragon bones and the blue dragon hide as well. Now, I should have a huge stack of blue dragon hide in the bank, but when I was on the grind to build up the bank on my normal account, I had like a huge stack of blue dragon hide, which was worth a pretty penny, and I decided to drop it to the normal account so I could afford some gear and bonds and things of that nature. This time around though, I think I'm going to collect the blue dragon hide, and that could be another option for us to train our crafting EXP, our crafting levels, as we're still 90, so we'll have a few options in that regard. But yeah, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be picking up bones and blue dragon hide. And auto retaliate should carry us through. Again, I might do some adjusting to my inventory setup here or my gear setup. You can see that I'm actually burning through prayer quite quickly, so perhaps maybe I drop some of the strength bonus gear and add more prayer, or adjust the prayers I'm using. I don't know. It's a feel out process, and I don't quite remember what setup I was in last time I was doing this for this account. That was a long time ago. And that was probably pre-Coliseum. And I definitely didn't have Sunfire Fanatic gear, and definitely no Avernic treads and stuff like that. So right now it's looking like we're burning up prayer too quickly. So we're going to probably adjust that after this trip. All right, not too long later, we're actually running out of prayer now. So this is going to be the last KC, and we're going to TP out. I'm recording this just to see, just to showcase what exactly I'm going to be doing. I have 3 different items in my inventory. I have the Max Cape, the Desert Amulet 4, and the Myth Cape. Myth Cape, obviously, the get here, but when we're, either full on inventory or out of prayer, let's go ahead. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and swap our left click on the Max Cape to the Crafting Guild. Typically, I have the POH teleport, but right now, let's just go ahead and set the left click to the Crafting Guild so I can bank nice and quickly. And we'll go ahead and make sure we deposit all the hide and bones. And then we're going to quickly go to the Narda statue for our stat regeneration by means of the Desert Amulet 4. Mist Cape teleport is set to left click as well. And we run back and we should be right there. And to be honest, I probably should have brought another anti-fire potion in with me. I would like to use extended ones, but I don't really have a lot of lava scale shards, and I don't want to go out of my way to get those. It would be beneficial to use a super combat potion, or at least attack and strength potions or something, right? But I'm kind of being cheap right now, and I'm not exactly in a hurry on this grind. Again, this is just going to be in the background as I'm running laps. I don't know how much this is going to slow it down by, but I'm going to turn off piety and then just fill up my inventory. I think this is the way to go in terms of just, the least amount of attention I need to pay on here, the better. So we're going to be using Dragon Bones, which is pretty traditional. Most people will opt to use Dragon Bones, whether you're a main or an Ironman. It's usually the go-to. But what is our prayer training method going to be? Well, the best method would be the Will the Altar, and that is something I'm considering. But what is also on the menu, and will probably just lead to a more chill time, is the Varlamore training method with the Blessed Bone Shards. At this point in time, I haven't quite decided which method I'm going to do, and if we do the Varlamore method, we also have to consider whether we want to just do the regular Blessed Bone Shards or combine them with the Sunfire Splinters as well. And that's going to be better EXP, but also we're going to have to make sure we have the Sunfire Splinters. I do have some from all the Coliseum we've done, but certainly not enough for a 99 prayer grind, I don't think. It is important to note that if we're opting for the Varlamore route, we do have to trade the bones over before we break them down into bone shards, as bone shards are actually untradeable. And while we do still have a lot of time right now, since we're in the beginnings of the grind, we're not anywhere close to 99 prayer banked. We have plenty of time to decide, but we will have to make a decision sooner or later because that's going to drastically affect the number of bones that we're going to need. I think even accounting for Sunfire Splinters, the Will the Altar is still the most cost-effective method, but of course it's the wilderness, and I'm currently debating whether or not I want to deal with that. Checking back into the blue dragons here, and it looks like not using piety is perfectly fine. I'm able to fill up my inventory without running out of prayer. And I'm currently questioning whether or not I need anti-fire potions at all, as I'm already using the anti-dragon shield. You can see that I am taking dragon breath damage, but it's very minimal, and I feel like I'm going to get out of here before I even get my health too low. So maybe I can save on those supplies. Currently on wait for it, we have just over 9,000 dragon bones, and we're going to take a quick peek at the banked EXP plugin. And if we're going to be converting all of that into blessed bone shards, that's actually a whopping 537,000 blessed bone shards. Let me do the math real quick and figure out how many blessed bone shards we would need to get to 99 from 63 prayer. Looks like there's a really neat calculator available on the OSRS wiki, and according to that, in order to get from 63 prayer, which is obviously where we're at now, to 99, that's going to be a whopping 12.6 million EXP. So that's going to be over 2.5 million blessed bone shards if we're not using Sunfire Wine. If we were using Sunfire Wine, it's going to be roughly 2.1 million. Either way, that's a lot of blessed bone shards. All that rambling about the blessed bone shards and prayer EXP, but it's time for a birdhouse run again. And currently we're halfway to 90 hunter. So that's going to be pretty nice when we do get there. Another skill in the 90s. But obviously, once we get past 92, things are going to be slowing down. But the way we're doing Hunter with the birdhouse, it's not quite passive, but it's not something that we're actively training, and it's just going to slowly add up over time as we work on all the other skills. Alright, I have peeled off from the Arty rooftop course, at least for today, as we've accomplished a lot, actually, and it's time to just sit back and chill out a little bit at the, barbarian fishing. So let's go ahead and put these away. And actually, no, I need the feathers. Still need those. Give me my feathers back. And I've been doing a lot of mobile barbarian fishing, actually. So no 3-ticking there, but like I said, just coming here to chill out. Much lower intensity than fletching and doing agility at the same time. And we're actually just 2 hours away, or 1 hour if we do want a 3-tick, from 95 fishing. I've been doing a lot of mobile, like I said, and I've actually been trying to time it to where I can still catch us getting a level when I'm actually recording on my PC. That way I'm not just showing like a screenshot or something of my phone while I'm fishing there. So I'm probably going to try and get this 95 before I get off the PC for the night, and then we're probably going to do a lot more fishing on mobile. Currently in the middle of a trip right now, but two things that we're going to adjust. Well, actually, one thing we're going to adjust is we're going to swap out the anti-fire potion in favor of an herb sack. As you can see on the ground, there's actually a couple of herbs that I would like to pick up. So we're going to go ahead and do that for this trip. And also what I did pick up was the scaly blue dragon hide, which is actually what you use. First, you cut the scaly blue dragon hide, and then you get a bunch of blue dragon scales, which is how you make the anti-fire potions. Very good early to mid-game Ironman Herblore EXP, and obviously anti-fires always have a place whenever you're fighting any dragons. Over the course of thousands upon thousands of dragon KCs, we're probably going to add up a fair bit of not only the scales, but the herbs as well. So let's go ahead and unlock this slot temporarily so we can bank the anti-fire potion. Yeah, I've done enough trips now to realize that I actually don't need to sip that at all. We can get away with saving even on that supply. And then let's go ahead and get the herb sack. Oops, I don't know what I clicked on. Got the antidotes out somehow. Let's go ahead and lock the herb sack in place now. And you know, for anybody that hasn't gotten used to using the lock feature at the deposit box set, I highly recommend it. It just makes things so much easier. You don't accidentally bank stuff that you're trying to keep in your inventory. But let's head back. And yeah, it's the herbs are going to add up. Not that we're a short supply of herbs, but we're going to be getting a lot of herbs on this grind for sure. So without the use of the anti-fire potion, this basically is a zero cost method of farming all of the bones we're going to need for prayer. Well, the cost is time, but no matter what method you do, it's going to take a lot of time when it comes to getting a 99. Late into the night, but we hit 95 fishing. That's it for me tonight. Exactly 1 a.m. we accomplished 95 fishing. A thought just occurred to me. I've been doing the blue dragons on the side, and I'm starting to think we might not be doing that after all. I'll be explaining that in a little bit here, but I am off to bed for now. Recently, we've been working on trying to max this account for 16 Hero, a Dolo Gim, meaning I have a maxed account in the background right now that I'm working on collecting Prayer EXP. Now, regardless of what type of Ironman you are, except for maybe an Ultimate Ironman, because that's slightly different, you're going to want to collect Dragon Bones as your means of prayer training. Currently, I'm doing just that on the other account, and I had been doing Blue Dragons. Well, these days post-sailing, actually there's another option to consider. Before sailing, it was mostly just either green dragons or blue dragons, whether you want to do that in the wilderness or perhaps the blue dragons under the Mist Guild. Those are probably the two most popular methods. But it occurred to me as I was working on those blue dragons, it's like, hey, frost dragons exist, requiring level 87 sailing to gain access to Brimstone Island. Frost dragons are cool though because they don't just drop regular dragon bones, they have their own unique bones. On top of that, frost dragons have a bigger drop table, dropping dragon nails and dragon metal sheets as well as dragon cannonballs, all relevant things for the sailing skill. And a bunch of adamant and rune drops, much better in comparison to green dragons and blue dragons. Let's transition over to the other account and get set up at frost dragons. First and foremost, we are now using anti-fires. In fact, I have a couple of extended anti-fires sitting in the bank, so I'm going to be making use of those. And we've been in prayer gear, so our armor is mostly the same, I think. We did put our lance on crush, though, as these things are weak to crush. I guess because they're ice? Previously on Wait For It, we already did a grind here, doing well over 1000 KC to get enough metal sheets and nails to upgrade into a rosewood hull. We'll talk more about sailing upgrades when we get around to sailing, but basically we're getting a head start here. We're knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone by not only prepping for sailing, but prayer as well. And beyond that, we just got a nice little alk. I think that was Addy right there, but these frost dragons do drop rune items as well. And we also have dragon arrow tips in our inventory already. So the drops all around are going to be much better. At the cost of having to use extended anti-fires or anti-fires in general, and we're probably going to have to dip into our prayers a little bit, or our prayer potions, I should say. But that's okay. I think that's a worthy trade-off. Plus, I think these things might have a pretty good Draconic Visage drop rate, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, a lot of potential goodies. Right now, I'm still being a cheapskate and not using my super combat potions or anything like that. I may start introducing those into these KCs. I don't know. We'll see. And of course, we're logged into 416 Hero at Barbarian Fishing right now. I'm going to make my way over to the RD rooftops shortly, but as I've said before, it's always important to just do something to work towards progress. Oh, and one more note at the Frost Dragons. Previously, I mentioned collecting blue dragon hide at the Blue Dragons. Well, I guess that's another trade-off. We're not going to be getting any hide at all, but I think all the other drops outweigh the loss of dragon hide, blue dragon hide. We just got a dragon cannonball drop, 16 of them in fact, and this is actually pretty rare. I believe this actually shares the same drop rate as nails. Yep, they are both 1 in 65, so it's actually a little unfortunate because while dragon cannonballs are nice to have, the dragon nails are much, much more valuable for us anyways. And I mentioned dragon metal sheets earlier. I might as well disclose the drop rates on that right now. They are actually 1 in 200 when you're off task and 1 in 55 when you are on task. Now, the first time around when I went on this grind, they didn't introduce the Slayer task mechanic yet. At least I don't think. It wasn't disclosed at the very least. So I was doing this grind under the assumption that it was 1 in 200 and it was pretty rough. The more I think about it, I don't think this was even implemented. I think this was a fact that they changed after the fact, that Slayer tasks would increase drop rates. I'm not going to take the time to hunt for Frost Dragon tasks right now, though, because that's going to be more time than it's worth. Again, our main objective is Prayer EXP. Also, as I'm talking here, you might notice I'm 14 health, and you're like, how am I that low? Well, I decided to cheap out on the anti-fires. I realized that I don't actually take too much damage without anti-fire potions, as long as I protect melee to protect from the chomps, and then I have the anti-dragon shield. It only does like 0 to 5 damage to me on occasion. You just saw a 2 right there, so it's actually not too bad. I think if I just bring a few pieces of food, I can guarantee that I can do a full inventory. I also haven't sipped a single dose of the prayer potion. I'm just being incredibly cheap right now, I guess, but like this is just like a second account activity right now I'm doing in the background, and Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking like, I'm gonna be here for thousands of KCs, and I really don't want to be burning up all my supplies like that. And time isn't really of the essence. You know what? I think I might actually have to TP out here as soon as I finish this. Come on. Come on. Okay, I won't be too greedy. I'm gonna sip this prayer potion because if my prayer dropped, I would 100% plank right there. But let me collect these precious 500 water runes and let's get out of here and bank. If you're wondering how to get to Grimstone Island, well, first and foremost, you actually need 87 sailing, and you do have to sail to the island once. However, once you do that and unlock the island, there's a fairy ring code DLP, and this is very, very convenient. It puts you right into the cavern, right next to this ancient furnace, which, by the way, is like double cannonballs. So if you have the cannonball mold, the double one that is, you can actually 4x your cannonball making. But anyways, our focus here is the dragons, and once you take the fairy ring, you just run to the west and climb up. There's actually another stone ledges thing on the other side as well, and climb up on both sides, and here are the frost dragons. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I get the feeling that they have actually increased the amount of dragons here, and I think to the left over here is actually a Slayer only region. Again, when I was first here during initial sailing release, they didn't have this. There was only like 8 dragons, 6 to 8 dragons at the most here. So there's actually more in the general area, on top of the fact that they added a Slayer only area. So honestly, that was much needed because at the time, this was like pretty much the only known place to consistently get nails and metal sheets, as well as the lava strike worms, but those things weren't nearly as good. So like the frost dragons were like the de facto place to go for like the first month, everybody knew, and this place was incredibly packed. Luckily for me though, because I put so much time and effort in the first initial weeks of sailing, I actually got to this place before most people did. So when I was here, there were very little amounts of people, and right as I finished the grind to make my rosewood hull for the Gwyneth Glide Barracuda trials, as I left, I had other clanmates start showing up here, and they were complaining about how this place was absolutely packed. So I dodged a bullet there. But yeah, that's just a little backstory of the initial sailing release. In fact, I did document the initial sailing release the first month or so, a few episodes back in the series. So if you're interested, do check that out. And checking back into 416 Hero, I said I'd be going to the RD rooftop course shortly again, but I'm still here, and that's because let's break the fourth wall here a little bit here, actually. I'm spending the time to edit some videos right now. I have a huge backlog in clips and whatnot. In fact, I almost always do, just due to the nature of how I schedule out the videos and try to maintain consistency. I always have a huge backlog of clips and stuff I have to get through. And you know what? Barbarian fishing is a pretty good way of still skilling and doing my video editing at the same time. Another trip at the Frost Dragons, and 3KC in, we got another drop of Dragon Cannonballs, this time 13 of them. Since coming back to Frost Dragons, now that is 2 Dragon Cannonball drops, no nails or metal sheets yet. Okay, this is pretty insane. Another Dragon Cannonball drop, this time 20 of them. That might be on the high end of things. Let me check the wiki again. In fact, yep, anytime you get a Dragon Cannonball drop, it is anywhere between 12 to 20. So we got the most out of that drop. When am I going to see a Dragon Metal Sheet or even some nails? The Dragon Nails drop is pretty painful, actually, because, again, it shares the same drop rate as the Dragon Cannonballs, but you only get 5 to 15 at a time. That is very brutal. Like, anytime you hit the roll, you can get 3 times as much just based off of the RNG. Like, you know, does Jagex want to give you 5 or 15 that day? And like, that is such a huge difference. All right, sweet. We got Dragon Nails, and I guess I jinxed myself. I caught a roll of 5. You know, I was complaining about that, and it happened for us. And the other thing, so here I am. Initially, there was just one other person here with me, and now there's another person, which is perfectly fine because, as I mentioned before, they actually increased the room here and the amount of dragons. But man, this guy over here maging the dragons, For some reason, like, he kept inching closer and closer into my space over there. Like, there's like 10, 12 dragons here now, and he kept like creeping on over. Like, initially I was where he was, but like he kept scooting over, so like I ran myself over here where there's plenty of space, as you can see. I don't understand why people do that. My clanmate in the clan chat, so like, it's like that meme where the guys are like taking a piss side by side when it's like completely empty and there's like 10 urinals. Yeah, that's a very like relevant meme in this case. Like, obviously it's not too big of a deal because I just ran over to the other side, but it's just like, why, you know? Okay, you can't make this up. You know, here I am in my corner, right? Dude, personal space, man. Okay, we had like 2 to 3 dragon cannonball drops to start with, but we just got back-to-back dragon nails, the 5 into the 7. Why can't it be like 15 though? Come on. I really gotta say, it's a good call switching over to the Frost Dragons. I mean, the KC per hour is a little bit slower. Despite the fact that Frost Dragon Bones are better EXP, I'm probably accumulating less Prayer EXP per hour for what it's worth, but the grind is actually a lot more exciting. Not only because we're getting the sailing drops, but things in general are just more exciting to see. There's alks, there's dragon arrow tips and whatnot, and yeah, it's just better to see. It's more useful loot. At the blue dragons, the most exciting drop is going to be the blue scaly dragon hide or whatever, and like, that's going to be nice herblore EXP, but it's like, you know. So yeah, we're getting like runes and stuff here as well, so that's pretty cool. Also, it is much easier. All I have to use is my max cape rather than, you know, max cape, desert amulet 4, myth cape, like less stuff in my inventory. I haven't quite done the math to see how many frost dragons we're going to need to slay, but I can imagine it's going to be thousands upon thousands, and there is going to be a pretty solid chance at the draconic visage. I don't know, maybe I'm coping, but it would be nice to finally get rid of this anti-dragon shield and have the much cooler looking shield. Although I will say, the odds are stacked against me. Well, not really, but basically on my normal account, I've done tons of rune dragons, and as such on that account, I think I have like 10 draconic visage drops, not only at rune dragons actually, but also brutal black dragons when they were popular to do back in the day. But yeah, if you believe in that mindset, it doesn't bode well for me to get a draconic visage, but in reality, you know, we could get one on this next KC right now. And that didn't happen. We got an adamant plate body. Hey, guess what happened? You know, since he wants to be in the picture so bad, it's like, why do you only have a defense cape? Why are you wearing Dagon High? Honestly, I'm looking up this guy's stats, and it's like incredibly suspicious. It's probably like a GP making all of some sorts, but it also like just reeks of like maybe this isn't even a person. I don't know. Well, at least our Dragon Cannonball RNG is good. Another 20. Where are the dragon nails? You know, cannonballs are already kind of a scarcity thing where you're really reluctant to use them on an Ironman. I know for sailing it's slightly different, but it's especially the case when you get high tier cannonballs like dragon cannonballs. Where do you justify using them? I don't know. All it took was some complaining. Our first dragon metal sheet back. Now these are going to be important for a lot of different boat parts, but you can also break these down into more nails. This is what I did initially because all I ever wanted was the rosewood hull on my is it the skiff? I already forgot what they're officially called, but the one you use Barracuda trials for, the medium-sized boat. I was in a rush to get 99 back then, so that's what I opted for. But considering how long we're going to be here, I'm going to hold on to these dragon metal sheets for now because we could end up using those for the hull, cannons, and things of that nature. Speaking of which, in terms of cannons, I do think we have 4 cannons, or is it 2? You know, it's a little bit of a blur. I'm gonna go ahead and check that now by means of the saved bank memory plugin. How many cannon barrels do I have? I have 2 on this account. Okay, I know I pulled some on the normal account when I went for 99 on that account as well. I've been pretty lucky in that regard, but we do have 2 cannons on this account, so we could make use of the sheets if we want to make cannon barrels, or the cannons on the ship rather. Hopefully that was the first of many sheets to come. And another dragon cannonball drop. I haven't really been keeping track, but it's safe to say that we're getting way more cannonball drops than nails. Honestly, it's been a little while since we saw any drop, but a second dragon metal sheet. Yeah, we only have the 2 in the bank right now. Another thing to note though is a couple of cases earlier we picked up some superior dragon bones, and we've gotten a couple of those by now, and I completely forgot about that. I completely forgot that frost dragons have that on the drop table. Those are obviously better bones. I mean, it's in the name, superior dragon bones. So a nice little bonus for even more blessed bone shards when it comes to chiseling. I do have to remind myself, let's not start chiseling any of these until we trade it over to 416 Hero. Because again, they are untradeable. And on this topic of untradables, being a GIM, it's sort of weird. I do understand how some stuff must remain untradeable between accounts, but if you think about it, imagine a genuine GIM team and you force feed someone all the way to the Corrupted Gauntlet and you get your hands on the first BOFA, right? That would be a very pivotal moment for any account, but it would be absolutely massive for a group Ironman team. But it would be unfortunate, and it is unfortunate, because once you corrupt that BOFA, or even if you don't corrupt the BOFA, like once you make the enhanced weapon seed into a BOFA or a Blade of Saildor, it becomes untradeable, and in a team setting, that's pretty unfortunate. That's just one example, though. I guess I'm kind of rambling here, but what else are we going to do on our skilling grind? The POH as well. It is a little weird that one person, the strategy would be to funnel all the supplies to one person to have a good POH to use. But then when they're not online, well, what do you do then? You put all that effort into getting one good POH and you can't use it unless that person is online. I do wonder if one day they could implement like a group player owned house or something like that. I don't know. At least it is usable between group Ironman at the very least, but again, it is unfortunate because if that person's offline, what can you do, right? Took a little bit of a break, but we're back now, and finally a respectable dragon nails drop. 13 of those bad boys, and another 16 dragon cannonballs. On 416 Hero, we're finally leaving Otto's Grotto, and we're gonna head back to the rooftops, not before doing a birdhouse run, of course. But I spent most of today just barbarian fishing as I caught up on video editing. Now it's time to get 92 agility. We're just 160k EXP away. Should be able to get it before the end of the night tonight. But then 92 to 93 is going to be a whole different story. Plus 7 dragon nails. Don't mind if I do. Sheesh, not quite a back-to-back, but another 15 nails. We're printing them now. Completely out of prayer. 9 nails for the road though. And another 16 cannonballs. I don't know what the odds of this happening is, but we got 3 straight apple pie drops. Of course, the bones are guaranteed, but what are the odds of 3 consecutive cases of getting the apple pie? You cannot make this up. 4 in a row. What is going on? Plus 16 dragon cannonballs. And at the Arty rooftop course, we got a little over an hour, maybe an hour and a half until we hit 92 agility. I've decided to switch out our Sunfire top and legs and our Torva helmet in favor of full Inquisitors. It's not often that I get to use the Inquisitors set, and Frost Dragons being weak to crush as we've been pounding with our Dragon Hunter Lance this entire time, I thought this was a great opportunity to make use of the armor that we worked so hard to get. While this is going to shorten our trips because our prayer bonuses are nowhere near as high, our DPS is going to increase, I gotta imagine, so maybe we'll be getting more KC an hour. In fact, that's almost for certain, but I do wonder if it's worth it because, again, this is just a secondary activity we're doing in the background as we do agility and fletching on the other account. So I guess I'll be trying this for a couple of trips and then reassessing if I want to swap back to the prayer gear or keep this going. Oh, and a quick little update on just how many Frost Dragon Bones we have now. When we first began the grind, we had about 1,200 or so, because on my initial grind in 99 Sailing, I did come here and I farmed about 1,200 Frost Dragons. So we've done another 400 or so since then. I think we've picked up like 2 Dragon Metal Sheets, plenty of Cannonballs, and a respectable amount of nails, I think. We're still early days in this grind. Our banked prayer EXP is nowhere near enough to get to 99, but I'll be sure to update you guys on the KC we have, and well, I'll be tracking the bones. That's how I'm going to keep track of the KC, and just how many nails, how many sheets, how many cannonballs we're going to end up with. Man, it just seems like every time we do get the dragon nails drop, we get pretty unlucky on how many we get. Plus another 6. Better than nothing, I suppose. It's been a few trips with the full Inquisitors now, and to be honest, it's hard to say which I prefer and even which is objectively better. I don't know. It's hard to say, hard to tell, but I'm going to stick with the Inquisitors for the foreseeable future. Aside from the fact that it's actually quite difficult to get full Inquisitors on an Ironman, I gotta say it looks so good as an armor set, and I do wish it was used and more viable in a lot of places. It feels like the last couple of times I've just been autopiloting so hard I missed the actual milestone and I'm 1 lap late, but that was over 900 laps now and just 100 away from hitting the 1000s and never looking back. We're still not 92 agility yet. My efficiency has dropped off a little bit, but that's okay. We'll be 92 shortly. Agility is going to be slow, regardless of how much you pay attention. It's just a slow skill. It is what it is. This is definitely one of those skills where maybe we should slap on a TV show, preferably one with many seasons, many episodes, and perhaps get done with watching the entire show while still working on agility. I might go rewatch the Avatar: The Last Airbender series for the 15th time, or maybe How I Met Your Mother. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Time for a birdhouse run. It's always a nice break from the act of training. That is our 3rd Dragon Metal Sheet. Those things, like I said before, are over 200. 1 in 220, I believe, when you're off task, that is. So yeah, we've been making good progress, and I think we're actually right about on rate. Let's take a quick peek at our bank here to find out how many Frost Dragon Bones we have. 1727. Okay, that's actually less than what I thought it'd be, because I was saying earlier that we're on rate for the Dragon Metal Sheets. I guess we're actually a little lucky. Remember, I started at roughly 1,200 Dragon Bones, Frost Dragon Bones, so we've really only done about 500 and some change. Now, what about Dragon Metal Sheets? As far as I'm aware, we've had 3 Dragon Metal Sheets since we began the grind again, so we had 2 already sitting in the bank. Now, the nails, I think I had like a whopping 2 to 4 nails left in the bank, and so we've actually gotten a fair amount of nails. Dragon Cannonballs, though, it's all a blur because you also get Dragon Cannonballs from salvaging, which I definitely did a lot of on my way to 99, as well as the Barracuda Trials. But back to the grind, the bones aren't going to collect themselves. Plus 13 Dragon Cannonballs. Can it please just start swaying towards giving me more nails instead? Right now, we've definitely gone way more cannonballs than nails. Midway through a lap, crossing this plank right here, we should be getting 92 agility. Wow, you know what? Is this new? Is this a RuneLite thing? This skill tab is kind of glowing as I hit that level. Anyways, 92 agility. Oh wow, this has got to be new. Now it's blinking in the tab. Interesting. Well, that's pretty cool. But that marks the halfway point to 99, obviously, and we're 1999 total, so if we can just pick up another level somewhere, we're going to be 2000 total level. It's likely going to be, well, it's going to be fishing or agility. Despite fletching being a quick skill, we're still working on the headless arrows, and we still have over 1 million of those to go through, and that just doesn't give a lot of EXP. So yeah, it's likely going to be fishing, I gotta imagine. Anyways, right now we're 50 laps shy of 1,000, and we're going to need another 675,000 EXP to get to 93. Yeah, things are really going to slow down from here. I mean, agility in itself is slow, but The levels are going to come few and far between. At least we'll be spending this time collecting our prayer EXP as well. Well, I'm going to finish up this lap, and it's actually back to barbarian fishing I go. Although I spent the bulk of today doing just that and didn't do as much agility as I would like. I am kind of just tapped out for the day in terms of agility. It is pretty late into the night now, so I'm just going to wind down with some barbarian fishing. As I've touched on in the past, barbarian fishing, I spend a lot of time on mobile as well, and that means we're probably going to be 99 fishing a lot sooner than you might think. And that leads me to the next point. What else am I going to be doing on mobile? I suppose I could do Arty Rooftop on mobile as well, but I won't be able to fletch during that. That just seems very difficult and way too intensive for doing something on mobile. And yes, I'm well aware there's people, I think, actually, are there grandmasters on mobile only? I have no idea. I know there's people capable of doing a lot of interesting things, a lot of high-level PVM on mobile, actually. But I swear, those people just have a genetic advantage of having small fingers or something. I don't know. I can't do it on mobile. But yeah, with that being said, once we're done with 99 fishing, we're probably going to do rooftops on mobile as well, but I have to continue to think, what other skills can I take advantage of on mobile? As I've said before, it's important always to be doing something. So even on recording an outro, I'm currently fletching and doing a birdhouse run. But yeah, with that being said, that's all the time I have for right now. The maxing grind will only continue, obviously, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.